Welcome to the Republican Professor. This afternoon, we have a very special guest, MavEryck Stevenson. Thanks for being here, MavEryck.
No problem.
MavEryck and I met in an interesting way. He has the distinct honor of being, maybe it's a dishonor, I don't know, but we'll find out, of being the first guest that I've just walked up to in public at one point and asked him if he would be on the podcast. The story is that I was up at Neptunes Net off of PCH and Malibu, in Malibu. I happened to see that he had a leather jacket on and he was riding I think it was a Harley or something, but
That's correct.
it was like this leather jacket that said something about the Second Amendment. And I said, I'm going to ask that guy if he wants to be on my podcast. So I just walked up to him. What did you think when I walked up to you?
Well, a few people tend to walk up to me when I'm hanging out with my motorcycle. They either want to talk about the vest or they want to talk to me. Just, I think I'm kind of a friendly person, so people can tell that they tend to kind of walk up and talk. So yeah, it didn't bother me that you walked up, and especially if you want to talk about the Second Amendment, I'm all over that.
Yeah. Well, MavEryck, I think at that point you said, well, we exchanged information right there. And I just thought, you had said to me at that point, you said, I think, how did you say it? I'm the biggest Second Amendment supporter there is, or something like that. You said it really emphatically.
That or a proponent. I think I said the biggest proponent of the Second Amendment, but yeah, supporter, proponent. I mean,
Yeah.
The words are kind of interchangeable. I'm all over. I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment, the biggest.
Yeah. And then you said, I'm an attorney as well. And so I was like, oh, wow, this is just getting better and better. An attorney who rides a motorcycle and loves the Second Amendment on PCH in Malibu. God bless you.
Well, thank you very much. I think in addition to that, I actually opened up that leather jacket and let you see inside that I wasn't joking about it. I was carrying my firearm.
Wow. Um, and you have a concealed carry permit for that too in Los Angeles
That is
County.
correct.
That's interesting.
That is correct.
I was like,
yes, I have it.
You're the one in Los Angeles County that has one of those. Because
the one.
Yeah, you're the one. So tell us, I don't know where to start. Did you grow up around firearms? Did you come to it later? Did you come to appreciate the Second Amendment later? What's your story behind that?
Well, I did grow up with firearms, mostly rifles and shotguns with my father. He was a hunter. He would hunt for rabbits, actually, even with my grandfather on my mother's side. So my grandfather on my mother's side would hunt for rabbits, quail, things like that. My father also hunted for duck. In my 20s, I went hunting a few times for deer, but the majority of the time we went bow hunting. But I did go out. A shotgun, I think, was the early part of the season, and then rifle was right there in the middle. I think bow was at the end.
Did you grow up in
I was
Colorado?
also in the military.
Oh.
No, I grew up in Seattle, Washington.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I did
a few years in the military.
City?
I was in the city. No. So have you been to Seattle?
Yeah, I have.
Did you fly?
Yeah.
Okay. Right when you landed at SeaTac Airport, you were in the middle of my neighborhood. I'm from what is now called SeaTac, Washington.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, at the time it was unincorporated King County. So our addresses were Seattle 98188. So I still say I'm from Seattle, but that was my address, but it was unincorporated county land.
Was it a rural area?
Not so much rural right there where I live, but if you go down the hill from there into the Kent Valley, there's plenty of farmland right there.
And you said you grew up hunting, and did you say fishing? I don't know if he said fishing
That's
or not.
correct.
Okay.
Yes, hunting and fishing.
So it's kind of in your blood, to say, so to speak. There's a lot of nice
I
areas up there in Washington. I know that.
There's a lot of nice areas up there. My father would take me out to Nia Bay or Westport, any of those places for going out on the ocean. He had friends with boats. We always had a boat, at least a small boat, at the house. I grew up on a lake called Engle Lake, and I would go out trout fishing out there from the dock, or we take the boat out, try to get some bass. I don't know if we ever got bass out of that particular lake, but yeah, I went fishing with my dad a lot as a kid.
Uh, would you say the earliest memory you have is with a firearm? Was it pretty young?
It was, and this is really irresponsible. But I mean, if you want the truth, back in the day, you didn't have to really lock up your firearms or your ammunition. It wasn't a law, it wasn't a requirement. And I remember taking out some of my dad's ammunition and setting it on a 2x4 in the backyard toward, we had a berm of dirt back there, and I would shoot the back of the bullets with my BB gun and make them go pow. So
Oh my
that's my
gosh.
earliest memory of, yeah. I mean,
Wow.
I got in some trouble for that. Not that it ever went to where it could have hit anyone in front of me, but my father was like, you don't know where that bullet's going to go when you shoot it with the BB gun on the back
Wow.
of it. So yeah, it was kind of
Wow.
dumb, but I was a little kid,
Wow.
I was
How old were you?
11, 12 years old,
11,
maybe
12.
11 or 12.
Wow. Do you remember what kind of BB gun that you had?
I did. It was a Daisy. It was the pump. You could pump it up to 10 times, and it
Uh-huh.
shot BBs or pellets.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had a 66 Power Master, a Crossman. Man, I love that thing. I had a lot of fun with that
Now
thing in
that
the backyard. What's that?
was that CO2 operated?
No, it was pump.
Oh,
It's
okay.
pump. Yeah. You had to pump it quite a bit to get the BB to do any, you know, serious damage to like a rat or something like that. And I used to shoot
Right.
mice and rats and stuff like that. Mainly mice. We didn't have a lot of rats that I could tell, but I grew up in
Okay.
Colorado. Now, okay, so
Oh, okay.
what about using using firearms for self-defense? How did that get on your radar? When's the first time you thought about that as a
Let me
kid?
see. I mean, obviously in the military, I used
Hmm.
firearms,
Yeah, tell us about the
M16. What's that?
M16. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, the M16 rifle, that was standard issue. I was an M60 gunner when I was in the Fort Riley, Kansas, in the Big Red One, the First Infantry Division. I was a 50 cal gunner when I was at Fort Lewis. Let's see, M203 grenade launcher. Pretty much fired everything, including the pistol range, but I only went to the pistol range once. The pistols were not standard issue. The officers used pistols. A friend of mine was the driver for the captain and asked me if I wanted to go to the pistol range because they had an extra seat. So I went out to a pistol range. I think that was the first pistol. It was a 45. That was the first
Mhm.
pistol that I ever fired. I did have a few pistols in my 20s. Uh, Nothing much. I mean, I think if I remember right, I don't think that Washington State was always open carry. Washington State is open carry now. And when I'm back in Washington State, I do open carry. I would say for self defense, I've carried openly in Arizona probably the last 8 or 10 years, anytime I go to Arizona. So until having a CCW in California, I've transported a weapon legally across into Arizona, meaning a hard shelled case, lock, ammunition separate, all of that. Then when I get to Arizona, carry it on my hip, or you can carry concealed too in Arizona as long as you're 21 and over. So I've carried concealed and openly in Arizona. I've open carried in Washington State prior to getting my CPL in Washington. now I have the option of carrying open or concealed in Washington State. The biggest reason that I got the CPL, the concealed pistol license in Washington State, was even though it's open carry, the law is a little bit funny in Washington. You cannot get into a vehicle with an open carrying a weapon, or in my case, getting onto a motorcycle. There's some other things like a ferry, things like that, the ferry that goes across the sound. You can't do any of those things with a loaded weapon unless you have the concealed carry license. So I was constantly having to take the magazine out, take the round in the chamber out to get onto my motorcycle, for instance, riding around then with the weapon on my hip, but no magazine in it and unloaded. So I did get my CPL for Washington State, just so I wouldn't have to unload the weapon just to get on and off my motorcycle.
Sounds like you're very concerned about following the law. That's a
I
high
am.
priority for you.
It is, especially because I'm an attorney. I have an obligation to follow the law and to know what the laws are. I make sure that I know what the laws are in each state before I get there, because I travel a lot. For instance, last summer, I went on a trip from Washington to Oregon. That was in the summer, right before Sturgis. I went to Oregon to apply for my concealed carry. I think it's a CHL, concealed handgun license in Oregon State. Came back to Washington State. I was able to ride with my weapon on my hip, open carry, from Washington to Idaho, to Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, back to Wyoming, to Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, until I got back to the state line of California, and I had to take the pistol off my hip, unload it, lock it up separately from the ammunition. So, I like to make sure that if I'm going to travel, that I know what the laws are, because if you run afoul of the laws, you're going to be in trouble if you get caught. And
Right.
I don't need a misdemeanor or a felony for that matter. If I get a felony, I'm never going to be an attorney again. That's the end of my career. And you just don't want to end up even in a situation where you run into a police officer, you've got some problem. I mean, let's be honest, I'm an African-American male. If I've got a gun on me, a firearm, and there's some question about what's going on and why I have that firearm, I'm taking a chance of getting shot. We all are, but I think we can't say that race doesn't play a part in that.
Right. Do you prefer the term African American to black?
I really don't. I
Okay.
don't prefer one or the other. Black, brown, African American. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, my heritage is, I usually do say either black or African American, either one on that one. Then I'm Shawnee Indian and Irish. So I mean, pick one.
Wow. Okay. Well, let me describe you briefly for those who cannot see you on YouTube. This is going to be audio as well. You have a gray beard.
I do.
And
It's completely gray.
you have the appearance, you do not look old though. To me, you have a
Thanks.
very young face, bright smile, and to me, you look very young and energetic. You have a Richard Gere kind of a thing going on with the beard. Gray beard doesn't match how old you look, but you do have that appearance of wisdom to me. And
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. That's what I thought when I walked up to you, and I thought this is a very thoughtful person. And I, tell us, how did you? Well, actually, let's talk about race a little bit. That 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 issue of traveling with the gun, does it make you feel safer? Like if it's loaded and it's ready for self-defense?
Yes. I can't even imagine carrying a firearm that's not loaded with one in the chamber. There are just, okay, let's put it like this. I go through a lot of trainings about this particular thing. I'm a member of the United States Concealed Carry Association, USCCA, and I'm not getting paid to say it, but I will tell anyone, if you're going to carry a firearm, you need to have some type of insurance or something in case you do have to use that weapon in self-defense, whether it be Legal Shield or USCCA, whomever. I think most of them will cover up to $1 million or $2 million of your legal fees if you have to use your weapon in a justified self-defense. I didn't carry with one in the chamber when I first started carrying a firearm, which was about 3 years ago that I started carrying a firearm consistently all the time. And when I mean all the time, I carry a firearm pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. When I fly, I put my firearm in a hard shell case. I declare it. I fly it to my location. If it's an open carry situation, when I get to that state, I take it out as soon as I get out of the airport, and I put it right on my hip. If it's concealed carry, or I have a license for that state or reciprocity from one of my licenses, it goes inside on my shoulder harness or a concealed carry inner or outer waistband. When I started carrying a firearm, I thought to myself, there's no chance of it being negligently discharged if I don't have one in the chamber.
Right.
And through training, I've come to realize that in a situation where you need that firearm to protect your life or the life of another, you're going to lose your fine motor skills. That's just a foregone conclusion. You don't need to be in a situation where you're having to rack that firearm to load it in that situation. You need to be ready to use it. So yes, to answer your question specifically, I do feel safer having a firearm that is loaded. And by loaded, I mean with one in the chamber.
Yeah, that is the point of having it, the legal point of having it anyway.
Sure. I mean, if you don't have one in the chamber and you're not ready to go, I mean, it's basically like having it's a hammer. You could hit someone with it, but what's that going to do at 35 feet away?
Well, that's how the police carry it. That's how
they carried without one in the chamber.
No, they carry it with one in the chamber.
Oh, sure. There you go.
That's how it's meant to be carried. Yeah. Same in the military. I mean,
sure.
You were in the Army, did you say?
Army, yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I never get tired of hearing that.
Yeah. I actually don't either. I was in the Navy for 7 years.
Okay. Well, thank you for your service.
You're welcome. We were at downtown Disney. I'm not allowed to say my wife's name on this, but we were at downtown Disney yesterday, and we're going. They're now charging $10 for just even validated parking, no matter how long you're there. It was just ridiculous. Used to be free, just like 3 years ago it was free, but so the guy, put the ticket in, and it was $10, and I said, well, do you have a military discount still, the veteran discount? And he said, oh no, we don't have that. He said, but you're a military veteran? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I'm not going to charge you for that.
That's great.
It was awesome.
That is great.
Yeah. So how long were you in the Army?
I was in the Army about 3 years.
That's enough. Now
that's enough.
Well, when you said that about 3 years ago you started carrying one pretty much every day. Was it a specific event that led you to want to start doing that, or was it just new thoughts that you were having, new connections you were making with something?
I have got a long story to tell you that I will shorten down as short as I can.
Okay.
So I was wrongly convicted of a crime in 1990. was a domestic violence simple assault, or assault for simple assault, I think is what they called it. And just is, I don't even know how much I could shorten this down. I know you don't have time for the whole story.
Okay.
Either way,
No, I mean, I'm fine time wise on my end. Don't worry about my side.
Oh,
But
good.
if you have
Okay.
something, don't
Oh,
worry about.
I've got some
Yeah.
time.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just sorry I'm late
We're
logging in here with you, but I've got
That's
time.
all right. We're
Okay.
interested in
So
your story. Yeah.
okay. So the short version is this. I had locked my now ex-wife out of the house. I was working graveyard when I got out of the military for a company doing security. And I was working 11 to 7. I came home at 8 o'clock or so in the morning, and she was sleeping on the couch. We had been having an argument the night before. She kind of wanted to continue that argument. I ended up locking her out of the house just so I could get some sleep. We're 20 years old, 20, I think we might have been 21 by then, whatever. Either way, she called the police because she's in her socks and her sweats.
What
And
state
not
was
because
this
I'm
in?
beating her.
What state?
Washington State.
Washington State. Okay.
Washington.
Was it
Yeah.
cold? Was she cold out
Oh,
there?
probably.
Okay.
I wasn't even thinking about that, to tell you. I mean, it was January, so yeah, I'm
Okay.
sure it was cold.
All right.
What I didn't want was this situation to escalate to some kind of physical altercation, because she kept waking me up, out of a dead sleep. And I was super tired. I was like, look, just let me sleep. We can finish whatever you want to talk about later. And so I did. I locked her out. She called the police. The police came. And back then, if the police came for a domestic violence call or anything like that, somebody was going to jail. Well, the police got there from her call, again, from being locked out of the house, nothing more. I saw a tiny scratch, and I mean tiny, like maybe an eighth of an inch or so, a little scratch on her arm. The police officer asked her, did your husband do that? She goes, no, that I'm not calling you about my husband, hurting me. He just locked me out of the house. And, they pounded on the door, and I came out. They had me turn around, put my hands behind my back, and they arrested me.
Wow.
So I think I was 20. Yeah, that was 20. So it was July, yeah, or January. Anyway, so now I've got this charge for domestic violence. Well, I didn't go to court for it. That was really stupid. I just blew it off. I'm like, I'm not going to court for beating up my wife, because I wasn't beating up my wife. Went up to Canada like I used to, do sometimes with a buddy of mine. And we came back across the border about 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning. The border person asked, for both of our IDs. I said, why? I'm a passenger. And he said there had been reports of people causing problems that fit our description, whatever. So I gave him my ID. He has us pull over into the inspection area. I ended up on a chain gang. I got locked up at the border. They sent my friend away. They patted me down. In the Army, I had gone through all my requirements and just been accepted into the Ranger Battalion. So I had my little Ranger coin in my wallet. They asked me if I'd caused any problems while I was in Canada. I said no. And they didn't even tell me what I was being arrested for, because it was a bench warrant. They didn't have to.
Right.
So it was a bench warrant for missing that court date. So I think it was Skagit County sheriff came and picked me up from that detention center, moved me down. Then Snohomish County came and picked me up a couple days later. Either way, I served on a chain gang all the way back to King County without even knowing what I was being arrested for. My wife came to court, testified on my behalf that no, I wasn't beating her up, that this was a big mistake. There was an overzealous prosecutor that told the judge, look, Your Honor, a lot of wives, victims, come to court and stand up for their what do they say? Not their beaters. I don't know what they said.
Right.
The person
Abusers.
that's been beating them or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Abusers. That's what it was. Yeah.
Right.
Stand up for their abusers. So why don't you find him guilty? And if he doesn't have any similar instances in the next year, then you can, in probation, then we'll dismiss this. Well, there were no further instances because I wasn't beating her up to begin with. I really thought that was completely off of my record until 2009. In 2009, and I had owned a firearm in between there. I had bought a shotgun when I lived in Nevada, had an M16 or AR-15, excuse me. Had no idea that this was still on my record. Went to get a job doing the census in
Did you say it was
2009
a
for the
misdemeanor or a
2010.
felony? Sorry. Did you say it was a misdemeanor or a
It was a
felony?
misdemeanor.
Okay.
It was a misdemeanor, but because it was DV, well, I'll get to that. I'll get to
Right,
that.
right.
So,
Yeah, that's a federal thing. Federal question.
yeah, what's that?
Well, the issue of a misdemeanor, it's a federal question on the ATF form, I think.
Oh, sure.
Whatever it is, whichever, I forget which form number it is. It's the one you fill out when you buy a new gun in California.
Yeah.
Or a used one.
And I don't know what I must have filled out to buy the Mossberg shotgun in Nevada, but I remember going in, buying a new shotgun in Nevada. I filled out everything truthfully. So, and again, to the best of my knowledge, that case had been dismissed. So I don't know if it just didn't come up or what have you. But now fast forward again, 2009, I'm signing up for this job with the Census Bureau for the 2010 census. And I get denied the job. And they said, because of my background check. I didn't have anything that I knew of on my background check. Come to find out, that case from 1990 was still on my record. So I went, I think in 2011, I went to Washington State, went to court, got the paperwork, and I got that vacated. It was a motion to vacate. I did all the paperwork myself. I was self-represented. I wasn't an attorney yet, but I was in pre-law. But the judge looked at the case file and really apologized to me. He said, I am sorry that you've had this on your record for, I don't remember, I think it would have been 20 some odd years at that point. He says, I can tell from the picture of this tiny scratch that you weren't beating up your wife. And I said, well, I tried to tell them that at the time. And he said, you know, your paperwork is very well put together, better than some lawyers that I see here. I said, well, I'm actually going to be a lawyer. And he told me, you know, good luck with all that. And so now here I am. I'm a lawyer. Either way, about 3 years ago, okay, fast forward to what was this? This is 20, must have been 2018, almost 4 years ago now, December. I went in to go buy a firearm in California. And the background check came back and said I had to do the more extensive, the secondary background check. There was something that came up with my name. Well, my name is very unique. I'm the only person in the world with my name. I've Googled that. There's no one else with my name. So if there was some problem with my name with something, it had to be me. So I did the secondary background check for the DOJ for California. And then, I don't know, 2-3 months later, it comes back that everything's clear, that they don't find anything. Well, now I go back to pick up the firearm, and, you know, your initial background check in California is only valid for 30 days.
Right.
So because I had to do the secondary and it took 2 or 3 months, now I needed to go back and do the initial one again. So I did the initial background check again, delayed. They can't release the firearm. And again, I have to do the secondary, you know, background check. This goes on a series of 3 times back and forth. So 6 background checks.
Jeez.
Still could not pick up my firearm.
How many months?
So I just, and at this point, I'm a lawyer trying to figure all this stuff out, right? And thankfully, because I was doing so.
Was this about 6 months?
Total? No. This is almost 2 years total at this point
of waiting for a firearm to be released.
Of waiting for a firearm. I kid you not. I got all the paperwork. I'll show you. I couldn't believe it.
My goodness.
Okay. So now check this out. I end up going to Washington State, and I'm thinking maybe, because I broke a window out of a teacher's car when I was 17, but I got arrested for it when I came back in after basic training when I was 18. So I thought, okay, maybe it's this malicious mischief charge, you know, from me when I was a kid, but, you know, I got arrested at 18. So it's on my adult record. I'm thinking maybe that's what it is.
Were you convicted of that? Were you convicted?
I was.
Okay.
I was convicted of malicious mischief. Yes.
Okay.
Did my restitution, paid for the window, blah, blah, blah. You know, thought this was way behind me, but I thought maybe this is what's stopping me from getting a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
No. So it turns out, I'm trying to shorten this down as much as I can because there was all these back and forth with paperwork. The state of Washington was actually very helpful. I talked to a woman at the Washington State Patrol, which is like the CHP, but for Washington. She was in a records department. She asked me about the third time I was sending this paperwork through. She said, well, did you ever have a domestic violence charge or anything? I said, oh yeah. I said, long time ago. And I told her the story. I said, I was wrongly convicted of this. It got taken off my record in 2011. She said, that's the problem. When you were convicted of domestic violence, there's a check mark that on the thing that removes your firearm rights. And so I had to go through, getting my background check from the FBI again, yada, 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 and finally got it fixed. It was a petition to restore my firearm rights in Washington State to remove the check from that checkbox. Got that done. So I guess maybe I started 5 years ago because I've been carrying this weapon now, I think, for 3. So finally went in and there's no problem. I passed the background check the next time. Actually, that was number 6. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was number 7. The 7th time I actually was able to pick up the firearm, and I just couldn't believe it. And now I haven't stopped buying firearms. Yeah, I've got a whole arsenal now. Now that I'm legal to do it and nobody's stopping me, it's only a matter of how much money do I want to spend on firearms and ammunition now.
That's an incredible story. Can I ask you just about the emotions of it? How are you processing the emotions of it? Are you just a chipper, positive guy, or was this, on the other hand, was it devastating to you? I mean, somewhere in between. What's your emotional state at this point? How patient are you,
so
MavEryck?
I'm very patient, and I think that's what really helped me out is, especially as an attorney, I've found that, we all know you get more with honey than you do with vinegar, So for me, whether I'm dealing with opposing counsel or whomever, I try to keep a good even keel and keep my bearing about myself, because people are not going to help you if you start off by lashing out at them. And so I've been very patient. I've been very congenial about it with each person I've had to talk to. The tone of my letters, I double check, make sure that I'm not going off. And, people have been very helpful along the way, but I was just really confused. I'm like, why can't I have a firearm when I haven't done anything to remove my right to have a firearm? So that kind of plays into, now to answer your question more about the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are confused about the Second Amendment. So being an attorney, I'd like to clarify that a little bit. The state of the Second Amendment in the United States, don't quote me on this, but I think it's the Heller case. The Heller case is the law of the land right now. The Supreme Court of the United States has interpreted the Second Amendment to, and I'm paraphrasing here, to give you the right to own a firearm and have it at home. Okay.
Yeah, for self-defense. Yeah.
For self-defense.
And ready to go, because the Heller decision, because the Heller defense was the Heller case was about, I think it was a police officer. Dick Heller was the plaintiff, and he wanted to have a pistol in his house ready to go. They said, no, you can't have that. First of all, you can't have it in your house because it's got to be registered, and you can't register it. The second thing is the long gun requirement. They had to be disabled.
Yeah, it's crazy. So as of the Heller, and I don't remember what year that was. Is that like 88, 89?
No, that was 2008.
It was 2008.
Yeah.
So, the Heller issue now is that, or the ruling, we have the right by the Second Amendment to have that weapon ready to go at our home, self-defense.
Right.
And I always hear people who are, well, I won't say all people, but I hear often enough people, well, it's my Second Amendment right. It's my Second Amendment right. Well, your Second Amendment right is not just that you get to walk around with it. Sorry, that's just
Right.
not how it's been ruled by the Supreme Court. You know, as of current law, which hopefully will be changing based on this newest case that's going through the Supreme Court right now. But current law is that the states have the ability to license or not for you to conceal
Right.
and decide by law whether or not you can open carry.
Right.
So I think at this point, we're at about half the states are allowing people to carry a weapon without even a permit. I think we're at about 23, 24, or 25 states right now, last I counted. And a lot of states are constitutional carry, it's called, by lack of a
Right.
better term. And
Right.
just say, that's your constitutional right, and we're just going to let you carry it.
Right.
Some states are like, no, you're going to get a permit and some required training with that permit, or other states get a permit, but no required training. I mean, it's all over the place as far as the laws right now in the United States, because we've got 52 sets of laws. You've got all 50 states, you've got the District of Columbia, and you've got federal law. And while we're touching on that, I mean, federal law does allow you to transport your weapon across state lines. Obviously following the laws in each of those states, you probably have to have it in your trunk if you're driving a car and locked up. You can't have it usually not in a glove compartment or something like that,
Right.
But obviously, I'm sure you're aware that there's a case that was heard November 3rd in the Supreme Court. And that ruling should be coming out any day now, between now and I would hope June 30th.
Right. On the
I
concealed
believe
carry. Yeah.
I believe that it's going to end up being open carry. I think that the Supreme Court's going to come back with a ruling on this Second Amendment case that everyone in the United States, unless you were barred by something like you're a felon or something like that, I think that you're going to be able to carry. I think we all are going to be able to carry weapons, open carry everywhere. And I agree with that 100%. First off, let me just make that clear. I do think that people need some training with weapons. Obviously you were in the military. I was in the military. I mean, even myself, like I said, I fired a pistol one time in the military. One day, I should say. I probably fired 20 rounds, but that was the max. That was it for a pistol. So everything I learned about pistols, I learned outside of the military. So if even I didn't learn that in the military, I know that people who did not serve in the military and have no background, if they have no background in firearms, they need some kind of training.
Yes.
We shouldn't have a bunch of people walking around with guns that don't know how to use them.
Do you think that there should be a federal standard for everybody, or should there be state by state standards?
Well, you know what?
Actually,
for
right now it's county by county.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
In
right.
California, it's county by county.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's, what's the law in California? If you have a county that's less than 200,000 population, it can be approved by the sheriff to open carry, correct? In that county.
That very well may be. I don't know. That sounds right.
So. Yeah, that's that. But I haven't found many counties in California that are less than 200,000 in population.
Right.
And it only works for that county. Your sheriff can allow you to open carry in that county only.
Gotcha.
And
can
then,
you describe, describe for us what the issue is with concealed carry permits here in California for those who don't know. I mean, you've been through the process in Los Angeles County. It's notorious for anyone. Well, unless I guess you're really famous or something, but even then, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of mysterious how people get it in LA County. I know that they're starting to soften up a little bit, at least the sheriff is, but how did you get yours?
Well, let me back up. So
okay.
I usually tell people, and I don't know that this is 100% true. I may be exaggerating a little bit, but I've always said that, in my opinion, that you apply for concealed carry in Los Angeles County was pretty much a rubber stamp that said no, no, no,
Right,
no.
right, right.
That's been my opinion.
Yeah,
Like I said, I don't know how true that is, but it's my opinion. My understanding is that Sheriff Villanueva, and I think it was last year, February, created a task force to actually review applications. I don't know if they were being reviewed prior to that or not, but I have reason to believe they are actually being at least reviewed now.
yeah.
And my understanding is that more concealed carry permits are being issued in Los Angeles County. I also understand that through my research, personal research, that if you live in Redondo Beach or in Torrance, you have a choice of applying through your chief of police or applying through LA County, because obviously Redondo Beach and Torrance are still in LA County, but you can go and apply through your chief of police at your police department in those two cities. I think there's a third city too, but I don't remember which one that is. If you go through Redondo Beach, that's where I live. If you go through Redondo Beach, you do have an extra requirement of a psych eval. And the psych eval is administered by the same, I believe she's a psychologist, that the police department uses for their own hiring process. And I think that's because California law requires that if they're going to have applicants for CCW be evaluated by a psychologist, it needs to be the same one that same police department uses for their hiring process.
Interesting.
It will take a person probably about 5.5 to 6 months to be approved for a concealed carry. I believe that everyone should apply, but that's just my own, it's my opinion. I think that the more law-abiding, responsible gun owners have a concealed carry, or until such time as we can all open carry, I believe that will reduce crime. I believe that the bad guys would not be so quick to be bad guys and commit crimes if everybody had a weapon, a firearm. So, I've said for years and years and years, even before I carried, that, a bad guy walks into a bank, says, stick them up and give me the money. And all you hear is click, 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 and slides going back and safety's coming off. You're not robbing that bank. Sorry about your luck.
Right. Was there a specific, did you always want to carry a gun for self-defense and just recently were legally allowed to, or was it a new belief that you had that you got?
You actually touched on that question earlier. Sorry, I meant to answer that.
Oh, that's all right.
So there was a case I had, family law case, must have been about 4 years ago, I think, maybe 4.5 years ago. And opposing counsel on that matter, I don't remember how we even got on the conversation, but we started talking about firearms. And maybe because I was going through that process when I was, applying, going through the background checks to get my firearm, because I was talking about it quite a bit with anybody that would listen, just the problems I was going through. And we were on some kind of break. We were sitting there at the court, and he said, well, I've got a concealed carry permit. He said, I do family law like you do. He said, you do family law and you do criminal law. He said, there's no way. Was this
in LA County that he had that?
We were in Orange County.
Orange County. Okay.
At the time, this case was in Orange County. And I think we were actually, might have been a Newport Beach courthouse. I don't recall. We were at one of those courthouses down in Orange County. I know for a fact it was in Orange County. Anyway, he said that's just, it's crazy for you to not be carrying a firearm in our line of work, doing family law and doing criminal law. And I thought about it and I thought, he's right.
Hmm.
I end up in situations from time to time where my life could be put in danger, whether it be the spouse about to be ex-spouse of the person I'm representing, or a criminal case where I didn't get the defendant off, which is rare. I have almost a perfect track record
Wow.
for my criminal
Congratulations.
defense. Hey, thank you. And my civil lawsuits. I think I've only lost 2 cases. No, 3. I've lost 3 cases ever
Out of how
in my
many?
career. Oh, 180, 200, something like that.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah,
an A
I don't
plus.
lose cases. A plus.
Wow.
And I tell people all the time, if obviously I can't guarantee it, but if they come to me, they're probably going to win because that's what I do.
Wow.
But what if I don't? I
Right.
had a
Right.
situation where a woman got a hold of me and she wanted me to meet her. I think it was in San Dimas. And I met her at this Jack in the Box, and she was going to give me this paperwork about this case. And her boyfriend / fiance, whatever he was in prison. And she said to me, as I was sitting down to talk to her, she said, "Do you know who this is that you're going to be representing?" And I'm like, "No." And she said, "Well, he's tied in and affiliated with blah 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 blah." And she said, "In fact, we're being watched right now by some police agency or federal agency, ATF, whatever." She goes, "They're outside because they follow me around all the time." And I realized at that time that this case is going to be a big deal.
Hmm.
And the person that she wanted me to represent was being tried for a murder that was committed allegedly by him in the prison. And so he was going to get a lot more time, obviously, if he was convicted of that murder. And I thought to myself, do I really want the ATF, whoever's out there in the car, following me around all the time? Do I want, and she said the people that he was affiliated with, I'm not mentioning any names, she goes, "They are always watching me too," meaning her, been watching her. Like, I don't need people on both sides of this situation up my butt all the time, following me
Right.
around.
Right.
I said,
Right.
and what if I do my best and I
Yeah.
don't get this guy off this murder charge and somebody takes offense to that on his side?
Yep.
Like, next thing you know, I might catch a bullet just because they think I didn't work at it hard enough
I
or
totally
whatever.
get it. I totally
Yeah.
get it.
So I didn't take that case, but it's cases like that that make
Yeah.
me think,
Yeah.
you know, you don't know when somebody's going to do something. I
Yeah.
mean, I just came from, I think I told you the reason we had to do this in the afternoon was I had an eye doctor appointment today.
Right.
So I have an eye doctor appointment regularly because I'm blind in my left eye.
Oh.
I'm blind in my left eye because around 1994, I was sitting in a bar with a buddy of mine and my at the time girlfriend. My buddy he had to have had a concealed carry for Washington because he concealed carry all the time. And I know he wouldn't have done it if he didn't have a license. So he had his firearm, and probably shouldn't. I don't know what the law was back then in 94, but I know now, at least in California, you're not supposed to have your firearm in a bar. But we were in a bar.
Right. Right.
I know that he had his firearm on him. I remember that distinctively. And he was about 16 to 20 feet ahead of me. So I was sitting with my back to the door up on a banister that was about 6 feet high. I was sitting on the rail. My girlfriend at the time, she was sitting down on the actual seat near this little fire pit thing. I don't know, it had a chimney thing on it, but it was a fire in the middle of the place, right? And this neo-Nazi came in, skinhead, swastikas, the whole 9 yards, and called me every name in the book for a black guy except black guy.
Wow.
Every derogatory thing you could think of. And I remember turning around because this guy is yelling at me, screaming at me. I'm saying all these racial slurs and stuff. I turn around. Remember, I'm sitting 6 feet up. This comes to about here on this guy. So he's a good 6'8" or so. Big
Whoa.
guy, big
Wow.
guy.
The
And
Nazi guy? The
oh
Nazi
yeah,
guy? Oh
yeah.
man.
And he meant business. whatever was on his mind, it wasn't good. I figured that was going to escalate into something where my buddy was going to end up shooting him. And so I made the biggest mistake of my life. I never said a word to this guy, by the way. I don't know him from Adam. I turned around, just turned my back to him to just ignore him, thinking that was going to de-escalate the situation. Well, one of the things he had said was something about, oh, why don't you leave the white woman alone? My girlfriend at the time was white. So I think that's what had set him off or whatever. He reached up and he pulled me off the banister, and I went down backward and hit my head on the concrete floor on that side. That's how I lost my eyesight. So that's why I was at the eye doctor today. But I remember when I was getting my concealed carry and they asked me, you have to go through, there's a lot. You go through filling out the application, which is easy. That's just whatever. But you also go through talking to, for me, it was 4 police captains and then the police chief finally.
And you have to have a good cause statement, right? And what did you use for your good cause statement?
For me, it was self-defense and defense of others, that I am a business owner. I own this law firm, and I do practice, like I said, criminal law and family law. And like I just explained to you, the situations that I might run into,
right,
precipitate me actually carrying a firearm on my body. Because here's the thing. When seconds count, the police are only minutes away. So I don't say that to knock the police. If you call 911, they're probably going to be there in 3 or 4 minutes, which is awesome.
And they're gonna hurry. They're gonna hurry.
They're gonna hurry.
They're hurrying. Yeah.
We depend on the police and we put so much on them. I'm not anti-police in any way, shape, or form as far as what they do for their job. I'm not going to say every police officer is good. I'm not going to say that none have implicit biases or blah 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 blah.
Right.
But as far as what we expect them to do in society, what their actual job is, we put a lot on them.
They're not our bodyguards. The concept of a bodyguard is not what the police are. They've never been designed that way. No. Rich people have bodyguards. I'm not rich enough to have a bodyguard, but I don't know if you are, but probably not, because you carry your own gun. You are your own first responder.
My first responder right here.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that about the police, because that's a big deal to say that.
Yeah. So, if they're going to be there in 3 or 4 minutes, that's all well and good. And I commend them for that.
That's enough time to bleed out.
Yeah. In a situation where you need to defend your life, seconds count.
Yeah.
The next 5, 10, 15 seconds is what's probably going to determine if you live or die.
Right.
And 2 or 3 minutes is a long time after 5, 10, 15 seconds.
Yes, it is. And especially when your first encounter with the police or law enforcement is, if it's after a crime has occurred, there's other things to consider, which if you're in an emergency situation, those are the last things in the world you want to consider. Issues of evidence, issues of, they don't know who the perpetrator of the crime is. The first thing is what's the evidence, what's going on, but you're not in a position to present evidence and
no, you're not.
Collect evidence and make sure you have your testimony straight and all that.
Yeah. And that's a couple of things from what you just said. So you said first encounter with police, and that made me think of something. So I'm just under 6 foot tall, like a quarter of an inch or so. Been this height since I was 12 years old. And my first encounter with the police was, I was standing outside my house, and I grew up in a white neighborhood. My friend is white, I'm black. We're standing there. He's probably 14 and I'm 12. And a police officer pulled up in front of us, and I heard the talking on the radio, and they're looking for a black male. I think it said mid-20s or something like that. And I'm not even thinking anything of it. It's not me. I'm 12 years old, And the cop gets out and says, get in the car. I said, no, I'm not getting in your car. He says, get in the car. And he's got his hand on his gun. Like, at this point, I'm 12. I don't know what to do. I get in the car. I'd never been in a cop car in my life. He pulls about 2 houses up and pulls into the driveway. The neighbor, the woman, white lady, she's, I don't know, mid-30s, 40, whatever, says, that's him. That's the guy that was raping my daughter.
Oh my gosh.
I'm trying to get out now. I
He
don't
did that
realize
for a
that you
show
can't
up,
get out.
a witness
Huh?
show up. He did.
What's
He
that?
had you get it. He had you get in the car so
Yeah,
he could
for what?
conduct a witness show up.
Yeah,
Wow.
he pulls up. Well, I don't know if that's what he was meaning to do right off the bat, but that's how it ends up. And I didn't know you couldn't get out of a cop car. I didn't know there were no handles on the inside because I'd never been inside of a cop car. So what had happened was, backing up a little bit, we were all just playing around, goofing off, neighbor girl, her daughter. I had been giving her Chinese torture, where you tapping on the chest like this, right? When her mom had pulled up. And that's all that was going on. There was no, rape or molestation or anything like that. It wasn't even on her breast. It was on her chest plate. It's right in the middle. That's how you ever heard of that game?
Just now, but it
Oh,
doesn't sound
okay.
like it's criminal activity to me.
No, exactly. It wasn't anything like that. But anyway,
Right.
so as he's driving off now with me, I'm shouting at this guy. I'm like, hey, my dad's gonna get you, and blah, 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 blah. And he had enough of my lip. And I'm yelling I'm yelling for my friend to go get my dad because he's pulling me out of the car. I'm yelling like, Mike, get my dad. This cop throws me on the back of the car, like slams me down and handcuffs me. Well, now my dad comes out, all the neighbors are coming out, and I had never done anything wrong in my life as far as, anything that with police activity. And
Right.
that was a big, big deal. I remember the chief of police came to our house that night and was sitting there with my parents and I apologizing for the actions of his officer. So yeah,
that
I
was
got
your
beat up
first
at 12 years
encounter.
old.
Did
That was
you,
my first encounter with the
how did that
police.
shape your, well, or did it shape your perception of the police for your whole life?
Hmm.
I mean, it's hard to forget that.
It is hard to forget that.
I don't think you should forget it.
Yeah, I don't think I should either. How should I put this?
Hmm.
I don't let it color, for a lack of a better word, I don't let it color every
Right.
time that I run into a police officer.
Yeah. Makes sense.
You know,
That sounds like a very mature thing.
yeah, I mean, if I walked around the chip on my shoulder over getting beat up by that first police officer that I ever ran into, I think I'd be in a lot different position right now, because the times I have been pulled over or had
Yeah.
encounters with police in my life after that, I generally have stayed calm, followed their instructions. You know, uh, you don't fight your speeding ticket on the side of the road; you fight it in court.
Hmm.
You know,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
that's my advice to anybody. It's you have an in,
They have tremendous power, a police
they
officer,
do.
and I'm sure you feel that from that experience in your body in at a cellular level. The raw discretion of the police officer there, they have a lot of discretion
Yeah,
to detain somebody, to investigate, ask questions, to follow
sure.
you, to put you under the microscope, to even to physically assault you in various ways. Not that most police officers are interested in doing that,
Sure.
but there is the wiggle room just inherent in the way that the job is structured and qualified immunity and all that stuff, the way it
Well, and
gets cashed out.
they have the power of coercive force.
Yes.
That's how I put it. My
Yeah.
undergrad degree is criminal justice. I studied policing. My I forget what they call it. My like my concentration in law school was also criminal justice. So I know a lot about criminal justice, and
Yeah.
uh, it's interesting because
Hmm.
I've worked for every level of the government, being at the city attorney's office for a little bit, working at the Employment Development Department, which is the state of California, judicial assistant at the court, And the courts kind of fall between county and their own kind of thing. And
Mhm.
I worked for the federal government for a little bit after EDD. It was a lateral move, being a disabled veteran outreach program specialist. There was a time when I worked for the military, for the government, the state and the federal government, that my license plate came up confidential. So the 2 or 3 times I got pulled over while I worked for the government, I already knew that it was going to be a pretty pleasant, amicable situation because they knew I was somebody connected to the government right when they pulled me over. So when I did drive a car, I don't own a car anymore, just motorcycles, but I would always have my hands at 10 and 2, with the window rolled down when they came up to the window, and usually holding my license in my hand already. And then
Yeah.
they would ask me, who do you work for? And I would tell them who I work for. And they go, okay, well, pulled you over for this or that or blah, blah, blah. And we'd talk a little bit. Then they'd run my license, they'd give it back, and I'd be on my way.
Hmm.
So I haven't had any more, let's say, negative encounters with the police in the last like 30 years.
Hmm.
And I've been pulled over a few times, but like I said, it hasn't been a
Have you had an
negative
encounter
thing.
while carrying? And if
Yes.
so, how did you handle that? And how do you
Okay.
recommend people handle it?
I got pulled over about 2 months ago in California. I was just coming back from Arizona, and I had my firearm inside my vest pocket, and I was having some problems out of my motorcycle, out of my Harley. I had pulled into or taken the exit. I was trying to take the exit for the Harley Davidson in Victorville, and I missed the exit. Just hadn't taken it that often, just didn't remember which exit passed it by. Took the next exit, and often a motorcycle is not heavy enough to trigger the light to change. The light didn't change through 2 cycles. So after that second cycle, I did an illegal U-turn.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't paying attention. There was a police officer, who was one of the first vehicles that was coming toward me. There was plenty of room. I did it safely, but it was still illegal. And so he followed me onto the on-ramp of the 15 South. The very next exit's right there where you get back off, do a little circle around to go to where Harley is. And he pulled me over right there, just lit me up. And so I pulled over. He says, I'm pulling you over because you did an illegal U-turn back there. And I said, well, if you saw the illegal U-turn, you must have also seen that I sat there through 2 cycles of that light and it just wasn't changing for me. He said, well, you have your license and your registration, your proof of insurance. I said, I have all of that, and I have a firearm, and it's on my left side in this pocket. I pointed to it. I had my hands on my handlebars first. I pointed to it. I said, there's a firearm in that pocket. My wallet is in my right pocket over here, and I have a permit for that firearm, concealed carry. And he says, okay. I said, so right now I'm going to reach very slowly into my right pocket and pull out the license from my wallet and my permit. And I just want to make it clear to you that I'm not reaching for my firearm. He said, okay. And so I pulled out the wallet. I gave him my driver's license. I gave him my permit. And then I asked him, I said, if you would like to hold on to the firearm while we talk, you're more than welcome to do that. And he said, I would like that. So I unzipped the jacket and I opened it up with my left hand so that I couldn't be reaching into it. And I said, you're welcome to reach into that pocket right there. Just be aware that I carry one in the chamber and that gun is ready to go right now. So he said, well, you pull it out and hand it to me. And so I handed it to him with the barrel down, my finger off the trigger. He took that weapon and he put it on the hood of his car. He came back, and then it was like all hell broke loose. He was treating me like I was a serious criminal from that second forward. And I was very blown away about what was going on right then. It was a feet back and spread them thing. And I was thinking to myself, what could I have done any differently to put this officer at ease?
Yeah.
I have just let him know I have a firearm. I let him know that I'm not reaching for it. here's my driver's license, and here's my permit for that firearm. And in fact, you can hold on to it if you want to. And now I'm being treated like a criminal. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I feel like my rights are being violated right now. And if I'm an attorney and I know the law as well as I do, and I feel like my rights are being violated, then they probably are being violated. But again, you don't fight your traffic ticket, speeding ticket, or whatever on the side of the freeway. So I wasn't going to get into him about what I took as a violation of my rights.
Right.
I figured I'm just going to go through whatever this is and we'll get through it. So he pats me down. And when he gets to my 4 o'clock position, he says, "What's this?" I said, "Well, that's an empty holster. I just came from Arizona where it was open carry. So I was using that holster when I was in Arizona. When I got back to California, but before I crossed the border, I stuck the weapon in that pocket where you got it from, where I handed it to you from." He says, "Okay." And so he just, at that point, stuck his fingers and he lifted up the jacket a little bit, the vest, and stuck his fingers in there and just verified that holster was empty. So there's a case called Terry versus Ohio, and it's 1968. And that is the case, for anybody who wants to look it up, that allows an officer to pat you down on reasonable suspicion of, danger to themselves or
Right.
the public.
Called a Terry stop.
A Terry stop,
Called
exactly.
a Terry
That's why
stop after that case. Yeah.
Terry, exactly. That's why it's called a Terry stop.
Yeah.
So once he let me go, gave me my firearm back, he asked some other questions that I didn't feel like answering because I didn't have to. So I just let him know I don't really feel like answering those questions. And so I told him, I said, "Look, actually, the very first thing I said was, I'm trying to get to Harley before they shut down their doors because my bikes have a problem here. It's 5:30 and they close at 6. But he let me go at about 10 till. I got there to Harley. Then I kept thinking, I'm like, I feel like that cop just completely violated my rights.
Mm-hmm.
So I Terry versus Ohio, it's on my head. I do criminal defense. I can remember that easily. Right. I just Googled it. And I went, well, he didn't meet the first prong. There was no reasonable suspicion of danger to himself or society, the public, because I already gave him the firearm. And then it hit me. The reason that he patted me down was because my open carry holster, true, just sticks out quite a bit from my belt. And it's what do they call it?
It would certainly alert someone in California that you might have a gun on you, right?
Sure, okay. Exactly. I can't remember what do they call that when it's the police have something. It's called 3 something. There's 3 mechanisms to get the weapon out. Mine is 2. What do you call that? I can't remember now for some reason.
Yeah, I'm forgetting the exact terminology.
It's like second level or third level, but there's I can't remember. I've got a lot on my mind today. But anyway,
it's a type of holster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So mine, it takes 2 things to actually get the weapon out. My open carry, I don't want someone to be able to just walk up behind me and grab my pistol out of, you know what I mean?
Makes sense.
So I have to actually push a lever that releases it before I can pull the weapon out. I have other holsters that are not like that, but that particular one, and that one, it sticks out a good, 2.5, 3 inches from my body. It was under my jacket, and so then I got it. Then it made sense. I was like, all right, I gave him this firearm, but he definitely sees something bulging out.
You didn't take that off your hip before you came into California. Gotcha.
Exactly. But there's nothing in the holster. It was just an empty holster. So I didn't think I needed to.
Even though I've already heard this story at Neptunes Net, I think where you're going here is you're thinking the officer had reasonable suspicion after all. He did meet that first prong of Terry.
Yeah, I believe that he did actually have reasonable suspicion at that point because, again, he sees this, holster just pushing my jacket out from the back, my vest out, so.
That's a wonderful story. I love the way you tell that story because you're just being really true and honest about your feelings at that moment. What race
Yep.
was the officer?
I
Or
think he may have been Filipino. I'm not sure. He was Asian.
I
He was
hesitate to
Asian.
ask that question because I'm not even sure the relevance of it for you, but is there a
Yeah.
relevance for you?
Um, I don't
I mean,
know
if
if
the
there's a
officer was
relevance.
black, would you still feel that way?
I would have felt the same no matter what race the officer had been,
That's my
because
guess.
for
Yeah,
me, it was this person who has coercive force
that's right.
who's subjected me to that, no
Yeah,
matter what their race.
that
You
makes a lot
know,
of sense
if
to me.
to me, it's the actions of the person. And
Yes.
and that's how I am in life in general. I don't care what race a person is. I care about how you are treating me or the people around me.
Mm.
You sort of your actions that I'm looking at. So to me, no, it wouldn't have mattered what race they were. The simple fact that they're putting me through that, in my opinion at the time, which was an educated guess, because I'm a lawyer. I felt like my rights were being violated until I really, used my lawyer brain and parsed through this and went, actually, he did have reasonable suspicion.
Is
I've
it
already given him one firearm. What's
yeah.
not to think there's not another firearm right there bulging out?
Is there a condition on your license that you have to be careful with contact of the public contact with the federal or with a law enforcement? Do you have to
Condition on
report
my
those?
license
Yeah,
on
do you have
my
to report that?
CCW?
Yeah, yeah. Do you have to
Well,
report
wait a minute.
those?
Are you asking, do I need to report that I have a firearm?
No, no. I mean, if you have contact with a law enforcement, are you required to report that?
Not in California.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Are you asking me? Wait. I want to make sure I understand the question. Are you asking me if I get pulled over, do I need to disclose that I have a firearm?
No, no.
Or
I'm
if I have any
asking. I'm
contact, do I need to
asking.
tell the court?
Well, did the guy give you a ticket?
No, he did not give
Oh,
me a
okay. All
ticket.
right. All right.
No.
I guess it's kind of I think I'd heard somewhere that if you get a concealed license in California that you have to disclose any contact with any law enforcement that you have.
I do not think that's true.
But
That
if the guy didn't give you a ticket, then it doesn't really matter, I guess.
right. And so I've got my concealed carry right here for I've actually got a lot of them, just so you know. I've got
I
California,
know you said you showed me.
right?
Now, how many
Florida.
states are you legal in to carry conceal?
I think I am legal in 44 states to carry concealed.
44. Wow.
44. Yeah. I cannot carry in Hawaii concealed. I cannot carry in Colorado concealed. South Carolina. I think Rhode Island. I can pull it up real quick and tell you. I've got the little map right here. And no, Puerto Rico.
Hmm.
Here, I'll tell you. I've got the app on my phone. I use this app from the USCCA, United States Concealed Carry Association, so that anytime I'm traveling, I make sure that I don't run afoul of the law. Let's
Yeah.
see. And it comes up automatically. I've got it, my licenses, my permits already entered. So it will tell me reciprocity map. There we go.
That's a lot to keep track of. All
It is.
those.
That's why I love this app, because I can just look at it. It's reciprocity gun laws, and all you have to do is enter your permits, and then it comes up. I don't know. Can you see that? Oh, probably can't see it.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
So anything in red, I can't carry. That's very few places I can't carry.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, does
So
California have reciprocity with anybody?
no, to the best of my knowledge, last I checked, which was only about a month ago, California does not have reciprocity, because for reciprocity, just the very definition of the word, it's reciprocal. That would mean that California would have to recognize another state's CCW, which California does not recognize any state's CCW.
Do you
So
think
there
that
is
that's
no
reasonable on the part of California?
In my opinion, no, it's not. I think if you can carry in any state, you've passed the background check or whatever for any state, you
Yeah.
should be able to carry in every state, in my opinion. So
It's a
it should
lot
probably
for
just
the average citizen. I mean, you're an attorney. and looks like a lot for you to handle. I mean, can you imagine someone that's not an attorney trying to keep track of all that stuff?
Oh, I know it's a lot. So here are my
Wow.
restrictions. It says will not enter court when a party to action,
Hmm.
comply with Title 49 and FAA regulations. So I can't carry it on an airplane in the passenger compartment,
Gotcha.
and may not carry as security person for others.
Ah,
Now, I also know that there is another restriction. I remember on the application, you cannot interfere with a police officer in the course of their duty. That was on there.
okay.
So
Makes
a
sense.
police officer is arresting my buddy, my girlfriend, whatever. I can't pull out my gun and say, leave them alone. I can't do that. You know,
Makes
that kind
sense.
of makes sense, right?
You went to law school later in life. What was that like?
Yeah.
You must have been one of the most mature people in the classroom.
Well, I don't know about all that, but at least older.
Yeah, right.
Maturity is subjective, right?
How old were you when you went back? Do you mind my asking?
Well, I don't mind. I think I was 40 when I went back to college. I had gone for a year and a half
Wow.
in Nevada at there's community college and
Uh-huh.
University of Phoenix over there.
Right, right, right.
I remember going back to school because I used to build cell phone towers. I did a lot of construction and played in bands and stuff like that in my life. And I had gotten up pretty high building cell phone towers, no pun intended, high in my career and high working,
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but in 2000, what, 2007, we started having a recession
Mhm.
and got laid off. I thought I would never get laid off building cell phone towers because everybody's got a cell phone, right?
Yeah.
2008, got laid off again. And I was about 80% of the workforce that built cell phone towers because these cell phone companies started doing co-locate, like putting their new antennas on existing towers. So we weren't building towers anymore.
Mm.
And I never forget, my nephew was on the phone with him that day. He calls me here and there. He lives out in Illinois. He says, what are you going to do now? And I said, I don't know. I didn't plan to ever be out of work. And
Mm.
I'd wanted to be a lawyer since 1998. I played in a band in Seattle in the 90s. And
What did you
I
play?
felt like
What
we really got
instrument? What
a
instrument?
guitar. I play
Cool.
guitar.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, it was used to be called the Me and Mike Band. Now it's Mr. Muggy, like MRMUGGY. Anybody wants to look up the music, you can get it free online. I wrote all that stuff back in the
That's
day.
cool.
Yeah, played in another band in Vegas and stuff. But anyway, got really screwed over by the recording, the record company back then. I remember in 1998 just thinking that's when we released the CD worldwide. And I thought, man, I'm going to be an attorney and I'm going to work for other singers, songwriters, performers, artists, musicians, and make sure they don't get screwed over, by the system of record companies.
Right.
And I never wanted to give up a career though, because if you go to law school full time, you can't work. They
Mm.
don't allow you to work at least the first year. So I was never willing to give up a career to go to law school. Well, when my nephew asked me what I was going to do and I didn't know, he says, well, why don't you go back to school? And literally right then it hit me. I went, I don't have to give up a job or a career right now because I'm not working. So maybe I should go back to school. And I went back to school, finish up my criminal justice degree. And I knew at that time I wasn't going to stop. I was going to go all the way through, become an attorney, and start my own law firm.
Wow.
And so here I am. It
Was
was
it was it
interesting though.
hard for you? Was it easy? Was it
Uh,
medium? What were the
Law
other
school.
students? What were the other students like?
Well, I went to night school at Loyola Law, downtown LA. The night program is technically part time. It's one of the highest, at least it was, but one of the highest or the highest rated night evening program. They call it the evening program in the United States. So that was my first choice, law school. I am still ecstatic that I got into Loyola Law. I loved it. It was a great experience, especially as an adult that
That's
was
awesome.
there because I knew what I wanted. A lot of the people in the evening courses were the same. They were older. And by older, I mean 28 to 32, not like they were just coming out of college, like most of the day students. I would say almost all of the day students had just come out of undergrad right into law school. They were average age 24, 25 years old.
Yeah.
So, me being in my 40s, and by the time I got to law school, I think it was 44. I was actually older than most of my professors.
Yeah.
My professors were right in that age group. There were a few that were a little older than me, but not many. So it was interesting to say the least. I paid attention to every single thing that they told me and that they taught me, because I knew it was going to matter. I let law become, really, like you said about the police earlier, it was at a cellular level for me. I really absorbed every single thing about the law when I was in law school, because I knew that not only would I have to take and pass the bar exam, but I was going to need that information forever as a lawyer. So why not just pay attention and soak it in?
Right.
Did
Did you get the impression the other students were like that too?
No, I did not get the impression that the other students were like that too. I was different in so many aspects than the other students. I'll give you a great example. When you finish law school, the next thing you have to do is study for the bar. California and New York are historically the most difficult bar exams to pass. They have a very low pass rate, especially California. I think the lowest pass rate is California for first-time bar takers. So one of the piece of advice that a counselor gave was cut everyone out of your life for 90 days. Tell everyone you don't want to hear from them for any reason. You don't want to hear that someone died. You don't want to hear that a baby was born. You don't want to hear anything. You want to just study. And so I had this great idea. I had gone to law school in Germany also. I went to law school at the other LMU, which is Ludwig Maximilian Universität. So that was not an exchange program, but a study abroad. I go to Germany 2-3 times a year. German's my second language, so for me, it's great. It was a great opportunity for me to spend more time in Germany. So
how did German become your second language?
I wish I knew, except that I learned more of it than anything else other than English.
Wow.
Well, growing up in Seattle, my parents used to take me to Leavenworth, which is a Bavarian village up in the mountains up there, ever since I was probably 3.
Wow.
And that's the only thing I can think of, because it was weird. First time I went to Germany, I mean, I knew I didn't even know that hello was hello. I didn't know that yet. I knew Gesundheit and I knew Dankeschön. I thought I knew one other thing. Maybe I didn't know hello, but I'm minimal. I knew like 3 things. And I was over there with my buddy Clayton. We were on my first trip to Europe, and it was a motorcycle trip. He had shipped his bike over, and I rented a bike because I was on spring break from law school. So I had the weekend before, the weekend after, and the 5 days. So I had 9 days. By probably day 5, I was picking up German like it was nobody's business. I remember the first day, I was like, I need to know the numbers. I need to know how to count. So I learned how to count to 10, but 2 was the only one I really needed most, because the first thing I wanted to say was zwei Hefeweizen für mein Freund und für mich. 2 Hefeweizens, for my friend and for me. And what else did I learn I wanted to learn wo ist die Toilette? Where's the bathroom? Right.
Yeah.
And then it was
what's there to do in Germany?
There's so much to do.
What do
in
you
Germany.
do? What do you do over there?
You know what? I go over now. I've got friends who are like family over there, like really, really close friends. I go and visit castles. I love, love, love visiting the castles over there. I don't know if you're aware. You were at Disney yesterday.
Yeah.
The big castle there.
Yeah.
And it's actually in the beginning scenes of every Disney movie, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's Neuschwanstein. It's over there near Fussen in South Bavaria. That's a
Oh,
real castle, and I've
wow.
been to that castle several times. It's a quite a hike to get up, or you can take the carriage with the horse or what have you. But it's Der Schloss ist sehr schön. That castle is very beautiful. It's
Wow.
just amazing. That and the churches. I love all the churches in Europe, and I just love that you can go to a hotel that's from 1412.
Hmm.
You know,
Wow.
everything there, a new building for the most part is older than our entire country, and it
Do
blows
you
my
have a
mind.
religious background? Did you grow
I
up religious?
do. I did. Yes, I did and do. I grew up Pentecostal, so Protestant Pentecostal. Uh, I like to say now that I am religious and I'm spiritual. And I say that because to me, lawyers, we're big on words. Religious really means like doing things repetitively, religiously.
Yeah.
So I pray often. I pray every day that I never have to use my firearm.
Hmm.
Literally every single day, I put my firearm in a holster and I walk out of my house. I have already prayed that today not be the day that I have to use that firearm. So I don't want to shoot anybody. You know, it's not my end goal. I'm not walking around like John Wayne with a gun on my hip, hoping to pull it out. Not that John Wayne did, but you know what I mean. I'm
Right.
not Billy Badass. I'm not starting problems. I don't. I want to de-escalate things, and I've
You just
noticed
want to
that
be
even
prepared in
more.
case you have to use it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I found that carrying a firearm has actually calmed me down even more
Interesting.
because I do not want situations to escalate to where I have to use that firearm. I want to de-escalate and de-escalate.
So it has
And
mental health benefits of calming anxiety, knowing you're
there you go.
prepared for the worst case scenario.
There you go. Exactly. So Germany for me, I kept learning. I met people on that first trip. I added them on WhatsApp. I
Yeah.
continued practicing. I ended up going back to college after law school just to take German. So I took
Oh,
2 years of German after I was already a lawyer at Santa Monica Community College.
mhm.
I use uh, Duolingo. I practice. It's a little app that you can practice languages on. I generally practice. I haven't been lately, but I generally practice every day with Duolingo. I stay up on my German. I have German
That's cool.
speaking friends. I practice with them. And I'm a member of the German American Club in Santa Monica.
No
So it's
kidding.
the German American Club of Santa Monica. Yeah.
Are you the only black guy that's in that club?
I think I am the only black member.
Is it a big club?
There's 300 people in the German American Club.
Wow, that's a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Dang.
We own the building over there. It's on Lincoln, right before, if you're going from Venice, right after you pass Kiko, we're on the right hand side there, and it looks like a German building, so it looks like what it is. That's for members only. Most of the time, on Thursdays we meet there and we have dinner, things like that. Every Thursday we have dinner. I don't show up every Thursday. Not everybody shows up every Thursday, but as a member, that you can let them know ahead of time that you're coming, and there'll be a plate of food for you. And
Wow.
it's
Is it good?
$10 or
Is it good
whatever.
food?
It's great food. It's usually
What kind of food
one
is
of the
it?
members. Oh, we'll have brats, or we'll have
German food.
schnitzel, or you
Wow.
name it. There's always a different meal. I don't know if I've had the same meal twice, but maybe. Some
So
sauerkraut,
so you
beers.
lost your eye from a neo-Nazi and you're a member of the German American Club.
Well, I lost my eyesight. The eye is still
Right.
there.
Yeah, lost your eyesight. So you don't hold any you don't hold any ill will toward the German culture, the German people, German
Not at
ethnicity.
all. Not at all. And I mean, let's be real here. Not every German was a Nazi.
Right.
There were very few Germans by percentage that were Nazis.
That
You
makes
know what I
sense.
mean? So it's kind of
They
crazy
somehow
that
got the
anybody,
power and intimidated a bunch of people to follow along with their bullshit. Sorry.
sure, yeah. I mean, so it would be ludicrous to hold that against the German people.
Yeah, I agree.
Looking at it now, people who are alive now were not even alive then,
Right.
you know?
So in other words, you're
So
looking at people like individuals.
exactly. But I'll tell you, the truth is that when I first went to Germany, because that was my very first trip to Europe, I landed in Frankfurt. I was hanging out with my buddy, who was one of my best friends, and I was asking people, I did learn that one. Sprechen Sie English? Because I wanted to know, do you speak English? And I asked everyone who spoke English, what's the racial problem like over here? Because I didn't know.
Yep.
Here I'm a black guy, my first trip to Europe, and I land in Germany. And I have no idea how I'm going to get treated.
Yeah. Well, you said your parents took you there when you were 3, right? So did you?
No. They took me to a Bavarian village in Washington State in a place called Leavenworth.
Oh, okay. I got you. Sorry, I missed that. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd never been to Europe, never been to Germany before that first trip, which was like 2012. And I did. Literally everywhere I went, not only did I ask to learn something, because I wanted to learn something from each person. So I kept adding words to my vocabulary the whole week, but every new little town too, I would get to, or a city, and what's the racial problem like? And everybody gave me the same exact answer, like they were waiting for me. They said, we don't like the Turks.
Wow.
And I was shocked because I kept getting the same answer. And I was like, well, wait a minute.
There's a lot of
They're
Germans
white
in
like
Turkey.
you.
Yeah.
A lot of Turks in Germany too.
Okay.
And so I would ask why, why don't you like Turks, or why don't you in general? Because they would say we don't. I'd say why, and they go, well, because they come to our country and they don't learn the language, they don't learn the culture. Oh, okay, well, yeah. Anybody that comes to your country, we have people here that say the same thing about people coming across the border.
Right.
They don't learn the language,
They
don't learn
want
the culture.
The respect. Like, come over here, you're going to learn how we speak.
Yeah. And I think by the end of the week, I know by the end of the week, because I kept hearing this from people, they go, you know how to speak more German than most of the Turks. And I don't know if that's true, but they said, you know how to speak more German than they do, and they live here. So they said they really want to be set.
Yeah, they were saying that as a compliment to you because you care about their culture and they appreciate that.
Sure.
Wow.
And I don't know, I just really started learning fun stuff to say to people, and it always breaks the ice.
Yeah.
I go to a bar by myself or whatever there, and I'll say, hey, Entschuldigung, which is excuse me, or pardon me. And they'll look over, and maybe a whole table of them partying, right? And I'll go, nur ein Schwein trinkt allein, which means only a pig drinks alone. It's just a little fun saying.
Wow.
So I would say nur ein Schwein trinkt allein, and then they all turn around in unison and nur eine Sau nimmt's genau. It's like something about it's a female pig. Well, now you're not alone. You can drink with us.
That's hilarious.
So, it ingratiates.
How much of how you are, it comes from your parents, how you grew up? How much is it just your becoming your own man, different experiences that you've had? Obviously you have a unique personality. You like people. You seem to be very curious. It's interesting. You carry a firearm. You're very concerned about being prepared for the worst case scenario, and yet you're obviously like a real people person. It's not weird to me, but I know there's somebody out there that's probably listening to this now and in the future, and they're thinking, I'm trying to connect these dots because they have a perception of firearm owners, people that are, they have some kind of weird idea. It's not really based on reality necessarily.
Sure.
It might be a bad experience they've had, but it's not really representative of reality.
True. And that goes back to people having preconceived notions or prejudices. I hear people all the time talk about their opinions of why people shouldn't carry firearms. Comes up often because I don't keep it a secret that I carry a firearm.
No, you do not.
So it comes up in conversation. No, yeah, right. I met you, and within 2 minutes, it's coming out of my mouth. Hey, buddy, it's Second Amendment. Yeah, believe it. Here's mine right here. Card carrying professional. So
yeah.
Here's the thing.
you like talking about it. I mean, I could tell that when I came up to you and I said, "Hey, I like your jacket," and you're like, "Thanks." And I could tell by the way you postured yourself that you were open to further light conversation. And so I
Definitely.
was like, you're a biker.
Yep.
You like the Second Amendment. I don't know anything else about you besides the fact that you're black,
Yep.
but you have a nice bike. And
Yep.
and then you were like, yeah, and I carry a gun and I'm an attorney. And so you obviously are inviting. I think you're inviting to people. And it's almost like you had no idea, like, if I'm some crazy person that wants to take guns away from everybody, but you'd be happy to have a conversation with me.
Sure. And I feel like that's what and I mean we as responsible gun owners
Mhm.
need to keep in mind is that we can have a conversation with anybody about our firearm, whether
Mm.
they agree with us or not.
Right.
People want to be heard. So if someone wants to tell me all the reasons they believe a person should not carry a firearm, the first thing I do is I listen because they want to be heard. I don't need to shut them down and say, look, buddy, I'm going to carry my damn gun no matter what you think. I don't need to do that because that's not going to get us anywhere.
Hmm.
So since people want to be heard, I'm just going to listen first. You might have said that to me. You might have said, hey, I'm actually against Second Amendment when you saw my patch. You might have said that. I would have let you talk still.
Have you had anybody that gave you what you consider to be a decent argument against the Second Amendment or against carrying guns for self-defense or having them?
I don't think any of their arguments have, I don't think they've held up against what I've said back to them,
Okay.
you know, and I
So
think
in
they probably,
dialogue, you listen well,
yeah, yeah,
and then
listen,
you respond exactly to what they said.
exactly, exactly.
What a concept.
You know, what's that?
I said,
What a concept.
what a
Yeah,
concept.
to actually have a conversation, a dialogue,
Yeah,
right?
that's great.
Yeah, we as responsible firearm owners are going to get a lot further with people who are anti-firearm or anti-firearms being carried in public, at least. We will get much further if we just have conversations with them. We don't have to take it personally. They're not looking at us personally and trying to say we're a bad person. They just don't agree with what we're doing. They don't agree with us having a weapon. People ask me often why, because
Yeah.
I hang out with
As
my,
if the weapon, as if merely being prepared for a bad thing is going to make you somehow cause the bad thing.
yeah, I think they kind of think that,
Yeah.
and
I mean, why else would you prevent it?
yeah, and it's, for lack of a better word, it's disarming to them
Hmm.
to find out that I am a nice guy and I am friendly and I do have a firearm on me,
Yeah.
and they want to know why. And I tell them it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. If
Makes
last I
perfect
checked,
sense.
right? I think that, I don't know if as of today, but I know the end of March or the first week of April, I looked at the stats. And I mean, anybody can find it. It's historical now. It's in the past, a couple months back or whatever, a month ago or whatever. We're basically having one mass shooting a day in the United States. That's a lot of mass shootings. A mass shooting, by definition, last I checked, was something like any shooting that it injures 4 people, whether or not one of those is the shooter. So
Yeah.
if the shooter shoots
Right.
3 and then the police shoot the shooter, that's still a mass shooting because it's
Wow.
4 total. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
so if the shooter shoots 4 and then doesn't get shot, that's still a mass shooting.
Right.
So I mean, we're having one a
And
day.
I think it excludes gangs. I think there's something that
Exactly.
excludes gangs. Yeah.
Right. So none of us know where the next mass shooter is going to show up,
Right.
but I do know this: if I'm there, or another responsible gun owner is there that will step up and take care of that situation, there's going to be a lot less people killed by that mass shooter because we can defend ourselves and others because we have that firearm. We don't have it at home. We don't have to run home and get it. You can't run home and get it.
Right. What do you say to people that say, oh, then that just proves we should ban guns?
That's never going to happen. We're never going to ban guns anyway. So that's just a ridiculous thought, really. Let's think about it. Honestly.
What if they said, look at England, look at Canada. There's all sorts of restrictions up there.
Australia, Japan, right? Plenty of places. But this is the United States of America. Honestly, that's what I tell them. This is the United States of America. There are 300 million handguns, probably more than that now. But the last time I read it, it was 300 million handguns. And we have 300 million adults? There's a handgun literally out there for every single adult. Who in the world could really believe that we're going to confiscate all those guns?
Right.
As a country.
Well, what if they say we could try and we should try? Do you think that there's a principled reason that we shouldn't try?
Well, the Second Amendment is the principal reason we shouldn't try.
So in other words, you're for self-defense.
I'm for self-defense.
Yeah.
To
me, it sounds like you have a basic distinction in your mind between the true bad person, the immoral criminal, and then the person that is just trying to prevent that.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not a bad person because I have a gun.
No.
And I'm not a bad person because I carry a gun.
You shouldn't be treated that way by the law. The law shouldn't regard you as guilty of a crime merely because you want to defend yourself from crime.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
What do you think about people who don't they want to have magazine capacity limits? Like, what do you think of that issue? I said, what do you think of people? I should have said, what do you think of the issue? My apologies. What do you think?
That's ridiculous too.
The 10 round magazine limit here.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to have a limit on the size of a magazine. So I guess proponents of the magazine capacity limits would say something like, oh, well, if you limit it to 10, they're going to have to reload.
Yeah. Right.
So in that time, that's less shots that they're taking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's say that's true. Let's just give them that.
Okay.
We'll say, all right, 10 round magazine limit causes that shooter to have to reload. I'm a pretty good shot. Okay. I go to the range usually once a week.
You have training?
I have training. I have a lot of training in training with firearm, training scenarios, and actually firing my weapon. I train a lot more than actually anybody that I know. And I'm sure there are people who probably go more than me, but I go once a week as a general rule.
There's a lot of options for training now too, especially with all the veterans coming back from 2 wars.
And there's a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know I was going somewhere with that.
10 round limit.
Oh, yeah. So 10 rounds. So here's the thing. So even if we give them that part of the argument and say, all right, the bad guy now, the mass shooter has to reload.
Right.
Like I'm saying, I'm a pretty good shot and I don't always hit right where I'm shooting at. I'm a little off here and there, but under a stressful situation, life and death.
Yeah.
A lot of people, whether they think they're the greatest shot in the world or not, are going to find out, unfortunately, in that situation, they're not that great of a shot when their adrenaline's pumping and when somebody's shooting back at them. Paper targets don't shoot back.
Right.
So now we are limiting the person who is a law-abiding citizen trying to defend themselves. We're limiting them to 10 rounds.
Yeah. We're applying the criminal law to them.
Yeah.
If they need that 12th round.
Right. Here's the other thing. This is what I try to get across to anybody who is anti-gun. Okay.
Yeah.
I say, look, if we as a society make laws for further gun control, we are only controlling the person like me who's following all the laws. We're not going to control the criminal, because the criminal is not following the law anyway. So all gun control does is affects the law-abiding citizen, which is what makes it ridiculous.
Yeah. Because then they're more vulnerable.
Exactly.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And they're vulnerable in two different ways. They're vulnerable from the bad criminal, the immoral criminal. I say it that way because a lot of the criminal offenses don't seem to be immoral to me. That they don't make you a bad person. If you can fit 12 rounds into your magazine, that doesn't make you a bad person. But the law, under the law, you're a criminal in California. The way they designed it. But yeah, so they defends against the criminal, but it also you become a victim and from the criminal, also from the law itself. The law can make you a victim. The criminal justice system, you're now subject to that, and that's a mess. And as you know, I mean, it can really have life-altering effects for nothing, for just being ready for self-defense. Man,
yeah, it's a crazy world. I mean, we have to fix it. We have to stop with all this rhetoric of gun control, gun control, gun control. You know?
Yeah. What did you
stop with all that?
Someone's gonna be upset at me if I don't ask this question. What did you think about Trump?
That's a good question. What did I think about Trump? All right. Oh, I have to go back to answer that question. I have to go back to something I was already telling you.
Oh, okay.
So I told you I was going to Europe. I said, but I was different than all the other law students.
Yes, that's right. You were talking about law school.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about Germany.
Right. So on my trip, when I moved to Germany to go to law school that summer, I went to Budapest, Hungary for my first time. I felt this calm come over me that was amazing. I'd never felt like that before. I felt like that was my place.
Wow.
So I went back, I changed my trip. I had plans every weekend to go somewhere different in Europe, whether it be Amsterdam, or Barcelona, whatever. I changed my trip and I actually went back to Hungary, to Budapest on that trip. And then I actually moved to Budapest, because this is what I was getting at earlier, and this will lead to answering your question.
Okay.
So at the end of law school, I was saying you have to study for the bar exam. The professors, remember, the counselors, whatever, I told you I was listening to everything they said. They said, cut everybody out for 90 days. So I did. I told everybody, I'm going away. I'm going to Budapest. I'm going to live in Budapest for the summer and study for the bar. And everybody told me, you're crazy. You're not going to pass the bar. You're going to be goofing off and partying in Europe all summer while we're studying. I said, no, you are going to be in the basement of the law school library without any windows, pulling your hair out, and all of you feeding off each other's stress. I'm going to be by myself and I'm going to study because I realize I have to do this. And if I finish at 9 o'clock at night, I'm in Budapest. I'm going out. If I finish at 11:45, I'm going to walk around the block, but at least I'm going to do it in Budapest, which at that point, and still is, my favorite city in the whole world.
Wow.
My favorite area is
what do you like
Bavaria.
about it? Just so we get a handle on what it is. Is it
So
just beautiful
Budapest,
or what?
Yeah, Budapest and Prague. I don't know if you know this, but Prague, Czech Republic, Budapest and Hungary. But those are two of the only cities that never got destroyed in the world wars.
Oh, wow.
So they are original. As you walk through the streets of Budapest, you are walking through ancient history and beauty. Yeah, I'm really into architecture, which is why I'm sure I love castles and churches so much. And but I want to kind of stay on track because it's coming back to what you just asked me about Trump.
Okay.
So here I was, minding my own business, doing everything I needed to do in 2016, okay, to study for the bar, and I stuck to it. I did 9 to 12 hours a day, every single day, except even my birthday. I flew over. I was in Athens, Greece for the first 4 days. I took a half day off to go see, the sites in Athens and what have you. But other than that, I didn't take any time off. Like I said, if I finished it had a little graph on it, a little circle thing, a little pie chart. It would show me when I was at 100% for the day. I didn't stop until I was at 100% for the day because I
Wow.
wanted to pass the bar. And I
Yeah.
did. I came back. I
Wow.
took the bar back when it was the 3-day bar exam. And to me, it was just like another day because I had just spent 100 days in a row studying
Wow.
for the bar,
That's
you
awesome.
know? So I came back, I was in my flip flops and I was in my little German lederhosen pants, and my little Oktoberfest shirt, because that's one of the trips I always make over is for Oktoberfest, which is amazing. And, I just sat there and I took the bar like it was nobody's business. And when I walked out of that room after 3 days, and the pressure cooker, the bar examiner people were sitting there, and I was like, so that was the hardest test in the world? They're like, yeah. I was like, that's all you got? They're like, what do you mean? I said, well, that's all you got. I want to take the bar everywhere because that was nothing. And they're like, oh, we'll see, because it takes 4 months for them to grade your bar, and the essays and all that stuff, right? And I was like, whatever. I already know I passed because I studied every single freaking day,
Yeah.
Anyway, now bring you up to the end of that summer. I'm coming back. It's July 2016. And I've been studying all summer, no breaks, straight through. There's but not locked in a room like my friends.
So you were having a good time too.
Yeah, I was out in the park in the middle of Budapest, studying, and
Cool.
I went to Central European University because I had this scholarship that I didn't end up taking over there. But I asked them, I said, look, can I use your library for the Wi-Fi? And they're like, yeah, no problem. I had to get a letter and whatever. But anyway, so I was over there at the Central European University at least once a day, hooking up to their Wi-Fi so I could upload my tests and stuff, my essays, all that stuff. But other than that, it was location, location, location. I walked around Budapest. I would walk to this park, or Budapest has a lot of parks, and I would just work in the park or take a break and just look up and wow, yeah, I am. I'm here in Budapest. I'm doing this, So I was just on top of the world when I came back. And I will never forget when I got to the airport, when I first got back to the United States, because the election was getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I looked up at the news on the little TV there at the gate. And it said that I didn't know anything really what was going on because I had been in Budapest. They were playing anything about American news over there, and I wasn't paying attention to the news anyway. I don't even own a TV, just so you know. I'm not a news guy. I don't own a TV. I haven't owned a TV.
No wonder you're so happy.
Yeah. Since 1990 or 91 was the last time I really owned a TV. But anyway,
we don't have one either.
Yeah, I'm on the go, living my life. I don't have time to sit around and watch TV. Not against it. That's what people want to do. Have at it. I want to go out and live. But anyway, I'm looking at this TV screen at the airport and the gate, and I just remember thinking, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. I'm thinking, out of 300 million people, these are the two that are running for president.
Right.
As far as I was concerned, and I mean, I don't want to get too political, but you asked me. Hillary Clinton already had her time in office. That's the way I see that. I'm just saying, just come on. Yeah. Come on. She and Bill were married. Bill was the president.
Right.
She had her time in office.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that she didn't influence at least some of his decisions. They're married. Come on. And then Donald Trump, he was a businessman.
Yeah.
I'm like, I get why some people were on the Trump bandwagon, because if he can be successful with a business, that must parlay into being better for our economic health as a country. Okay. So now I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm not a Republican and I'm not a Democrat. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool libertarian. Okay. And what I say by that is I usually ask people if they even understand what a libertarian is. As far as my definition, I'll put it like this. The government needs to stay out of my life. Don't bother me unless I'm bothering someone else. Nobody should be affecting my life unless I'm negatively affecting others. As long as I'm minding my business, the government doesn't need to have any business knowing anything about my business.
Right.
That's libertarianism to me. But it has two sides. although I want this complete liberty to do whatever I want, as long as I'm not hurting others, I also have to be held accountable 100%. So, for instance, I ride a motorcycle. I don't think the government needs to do this legal paternalism of telling me I need to wear a helmet.
Right.
I'm going to be 54 next month. I think I can determine if I want to wear a helmet. And sometimes I do, even in states that don't require it, because maybe it's inclement weather, it's raining, there's a storm. Yeah, I'm going to put my helmet on, or there's a lot of traffic in an area. I'm going to be through rush hour. Even if the state doesn't require it, I'm probably going to put my helmet on during rush hour.
Yeah.
But don't tell me I have to wear a helmet every time I ride my motorcycle.
Right.
Don't tell me I have to put insurance on my car. But if I don't have insurance on my car and I cause damage to you, I need to be held 100% accountable for that.
Right.
That's a libertarian. It's not just freedom, freedom, freedom. It's responsibility too.
Right.
So now that I've made that clear, I'm a libertarian. So now this is not a Democrat or a Republican speaking.
Sure.
What did I think of Trump?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So what did I think of Trump? I think he was not qualified for office. And I know some people are going to hate hearing that, but a businessman does not make you qualify for office, period. Okay. I thought to myself, I should run for president. And anybody who cares to can Google this and find out. I did decide and was taking action toward running for president when I came back from Budapest and found out that it was Trump and Clinton running. I got on Facebook, and I'm sure it's still out there because I made it public and I never took it down. And I got on Facebook Live and I recorded myself right away. Not at the airport, when I got back to here to LA.
Right.
And I literally went through every single thing on Facebook live feed, every single thing that I've ever done wrong in my life. From pulling little girls' hair in third grade, you name it. I'm not joking. I went through, and everything I could think of, I didn't leave one thing out. And along that, I made some apologies to people right there live that I had never really apologized to. But I figured if I'm going to run for president, people are going to look into me. They're going to want to figure out who I am, and somebody's going to want to dig up some dirt. And I was going to be able to answer back, yeah, well, I already put that dirt out there. Take the wind out of the sail. So I started really looking into what I needed to do to get onto the write-in ballots. I think it was 32 or 34 states, something like that, allowed write-in ballots, but I was actually too late. So by the time I decided I was going to run for president on the write-in ballot, I figured I would do this grassroots movement. I know you didn't know this ahead of time before you asked me this question.
No.
I was going to do this grassroots movement because I know a lot of freaking people. I figured if I put it out to everyone I know that I'm running, they know who I am. They know my character. They know I'm not some Joe Schmo that's going to screw up the country. I'm not saying Clinton or Trump was going to screw it up. I'm saying my friends knew I would not be out to screw up the country. I'm not corrupt. And again, I'm not saying anything about the two of them with that, just that I'm not corrupt. I don't know if they are or not, but I'm not.
Right.
So
but the issue that you had with Trump, I'm not hearing anything about racism. I'm not hearing anything about, so the typical stuff I was hearing on the campuses when I was teaching during that time was that Trump was racist. He was going to round up the Muslims and put them in concentration camps. And I was just like, there was some crazy stuff happening in LA too. Like people were blocking traffic when he got elected. And I was like, well, LA is a Democrat city. What are you blocking other Democrats from getting to work for? I mean, what is that? That doesn't even make any sense. Like as a response to, being afraid of the border wall or something.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
that's what I dealt with.
I don't know. I mean, did Trump ever make any racist comment, a flat out racist comment?
Not that I heard. Whenever I asked somebody, give me an example, they either gave such a partial quote that it wasn't really a quote, or they gave a paraphrase of something he said. And I always wanted to know what it was that he said. and it was always like kind of assumed that everybody knew what everybody was talking about. And I was
Okay.
like, when enough people are doing that, you kind of like, because I was teaching at Cal State in Los Angeles,
Okay.
and they all, not all, but the perception was that everybody hates Trump.
Okay.
And I was just asking, well, what did he say again exactly? And there wasn't a lot of critical thinking about what he exactly said, but you
Okay.
know,
So I was not pro-Trump, but I didn't hate Trump because I don't usually hate anybody. But here's the thing that I
yeah,
thought. I thought the guy probably, not even probably, he should have given a lot more thought to things he was tweeting.
yeah,
You know,
oh yeah,
he
and
should
how
have had
often,
someone.
and how
Yeah,
often too.
yeah,
Yeah,
he should have had someone filtering
oh
what he
yeah,
was putting out on tweet. I never used Twitter, but whatever.
no,
Or what do you put on Twitter?
it's junk.
Uh yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's junk.
he got himself banned on social media and stuff. This is
Yeah,
what I
he
think.
was
And
not a politician, and I think that's what people liked about it, but also politicians are very careful about what they say typically.
true,
And so
true. I
kind
actually
of,
wanted to run for state assembly here in California too, so I get that too.
let me go back
Um,
to something else you said earlier. You said being a
can you hold that thought
libertarian.
though?
Sure.
Can you hold that thought?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, because I want to say
absolutely.
something that I know is going to be very controversial.
Controversy
I
is not
actually
allowed here.
okay.
Just kidding.
I think
You can say whatever
that
you want.
Trump, and again, I'm not a pro-Trump, not Trump supporter,
Sure.
but I think he actually helped the country in some ways. And I say that in particular with like the Me Too movement, for instance. I feel like
Right.
because Trump was in office and said some things like grabbing a woman's pussy. I don't remember exactly what the comment because I don't watch the news, but something about grabbing a pussy or something like that.
Sounds about right. Yeah. I
You
think that's
know?
what he said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something
So
like that.
I think because he was in office, or at the time, I think he was just running for office when he said it. But
That's right.
either way,
Yeah.
I think because that person that made that comment ended up the president of the United States, allowed all these issues to really come to surface to be addressed. I don't know if the Me Too movement, which I think was actually a good thing to a point. I mean, there's probably some people who just got accused of stuff that it didn't happen, but whatever. I think as in the big picture, Me Too was a good thing. If there was a casting couch, you all heard jokes about the casting couch in Hollywood. If women were being subjected to being forced to have sex to get positions in a movie, that's not
Sure.
good.
Yeah.
That's just not good.
Yeah.
So if this stuff comes to the surface and came to the surface because of him and the things he said or his actions or whatever, then I think that's what I mean by, or I don't think, I know that's what I mean by he helped the country in some ways. Foreign policy. I mean, I only heard this and that little bits, but
Right.
I mean, I know there was some stuff directed toward Muslims. Only thing I can say is the same thing I said earlier about police officers and in any group of anybody. When I talked about Germans, even there are good and bad in every group, and usually the bad in any group are a very small percentage of that group.
Right.
So I think anybody who's looking at Muslims at a whole and saying they're bad, they're far off the mark. There are some radical groups, and those radical groups need to be controlled or eradicated because they are doing harm to people, outside of themselves.
Right.
So as a libertarian, I'm going to say, oh yeah, do what you want until you're causing harm to others. So yeah, I mean, you've blown up buildings or killing people, that's not good.
Right.
But we
And when
can't
you say
say,
causing harm, I think that's what people get caught up on that definition of So if someone's listening to this and they think I might be a libertarian, um, the whole idea of the government should leave me alone unless I'm bothering somebody else.
Is that what I
Now
said?
that
Bothering?
something like that. Did you want to say
Okay.
it? Did you want to say it
Well, yeah, I
differently?
could have said bothering, but I really meant like this is what I
Harming?
mean if I
Harming?
said that. What's that?
You mean harming someone?
Harming. Yeah.
Okay. Well, say
So
what if someone says, but you're harming me having a gun? Because that harms me because I'm afraid. It makes me afraid. It makes me feel like I'm in the Wild West, and I
you know
don't
what I
want to
say to
be in the
that
Wild
person?
West. Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
What would
say
you
to
s-
them?
Okay. What would you say?
People, places, and things can only affect you emotionally to the amount that you allow them to.
So that's not real harm then?
That's not me harming them.
Okay.
I'm not harming them because I have a gun. They're making a choice to feel like that because they see my gun. I'm not doing anything to them by me having a gun.
Well, and of course, if it's concealed, the whole point of a concealed carry is so that they don't see it, right?
Well, there
So
you
they
go.
don't
I
have
would
to
prefer
have that feeling.
that's true. And I get into this with some people when I'm in Washington in particular, because that's where I'm from. And I'm still in Washington once or twice a month.
Hmm.
When I'm in Washington, I generally open carry, even though I have a concealed permit there, because then I can still get on and off the motorcycle. I keep a bike or two up there too. But, I generally open carry. I know that makes some people uncomfortable. That's their problem, not
Okay.
mine. However, I am considerate. If I'm going to your house, I will ask you, how do you feel about me having my firearm at your house?
What if I said that causes me harm?
It, whatever your reason.
Okay.
If you don't want my firearm in your house, I won't take it in your house.
Gotcha. Okay.
Whether I agree with your reason or not, that's your home. So
So
I do ask people before I go into their home with my firearm if I think
that makes
that they
sense.
might be on that side.
So you're very considerate of private property.
Sure.
Including like a store? If you go into a store, do you
No,
give?
no, 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 no. I'm talking about your home.
Oh, okay. What's the difference between private property store or a restaurant or yeah, well, I mean private property business open to the public and a home.
Okay, well, because it was your words that you said I'm very, considerate of private property.
Right, right.
I'm very considerate of residences,
Residences, okay.
right? If, for instance, I look at some of the laws in some states, they say that those signs, I think in Nevada in particular, a
Yeah,
sign that says no firearms carries no legal weight.
okay.
Okay. So you can put up a sign, 50 signs on your front door that say no firearms allowed. If I know that my firearm is allowed, I may conceal it because I have a Utah permit that covers me for Nevada. I may conceal it when I walk in, but I'm not going to not have it because your
Okay.
sign doesn't mean diddly squat in the law.
Gotcha.
If I'm in Arizona, I know that the law changed in Arizona recently where you can carry your firearm into a bar, from my reading of it, unless they have a sign that says you cannot. So if they have a sign that says I cannot, now I'm not going to because that sign has legal force behind it, you know? So no, I heard something about Walmart, and I'm not going to try to single them out because I don't know exactly what the deal is. I heard something to the effect of Walmart's not good with people open carrying in their store.
Gotcha.
If that's the truth, whatever, if it's not the law, I really don't care. But
But when
again,
when it comes to public places, that's where there's got to be a real harm before they constrain your liberty. Is that what you're saying?
exactly. If
Okay.
I am
Yeah.
brandishing my firearm, I can see that being a harm because if I'm brandishing, I pull it out, start waving it around, right? That by definition, I'm a lawyer, that by definition in most states is assault, an imminent apprehension of bodily harm, you know?
Okay.
So now I'm causing assault. Yeah, that's been codified as law. That's illegal.
And that's
So if I'm
really a
brandishing,
harm, is what you're saying. So it's a
yeah, that's
legitimate
exactly.
crime. Okay.
So, lawyers use what's called the reasonable person standard.
Yeah.
You
I've heard
know,
of that.
so yeah, so if you're going to give me some hoopla, not you, but a person is going to give me some hoopla about the harm they're experiencing because they see me walking down the street with a firearm, I'm not even paying attention to that because that doesn't meet the reasonable standard person,
Yeah.
reasonable standard, the reasonable person standard, excuse me, that's what I meant.
Right.
So if society, as the majority of society, feels like, hey, that's unreasonable that you're walking around with your firearm, well, then now we're going to make a law about that because it's reasonable. Enough people believe that that's a harm. But the random person who lives in Washington State, for instance, that's talking about, and I'm just use Karen, her name's Karen, right? We all know about Karen. So if Karen has a problem with it, then Karen has a problem. That's Karen's
Gotcha.
problem. The law
Yeah.
already says I can carry it, and
Do you
I think
think
it's
that a reasonable person, do you think that a robust protection of Second Amendment right to self-defense, the way it should be, the way the court should decide, do you think that that's ultimately quite reasonable?
well, let me
I
back up
guess
and
what
make
I'm
sure I
asking
understand.
is, I guess another, maybe I'm not asking it clear enough. Let me rephrase it. Do you think that the majority of people like can take away your Second Amendment rights legitimately, like by just voting on it?
Well, it's not going to come to a vote. It's the Supreme Court that's going to rule on something we already have. We already have that constitutional right called the Second Amendment
Well, but
that the
people,
judiciary.
three of those people are only on there because Trump put them on, and
Sure,
because
true,
Republican Senate voted on it.
true. Yeah, true. That's very true.
That's what I mean
Uh,
by it's, yeah, it's, I guess what I
say the
mean
majority of
is a
people.
majority filtered through the electoral college and filtered through
Yeah, but the electoral college
federalism.
doesn't have anything to do with the Supreme Court, huh? I mean, I guess
It has a
inadvertently,
lot to
right?
do with who
The,
gets
the
nominated.
president. Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But that's only if, because they serve for life, that's only if somebody happens to die while that person's in office.
Well, if there was a direct election of the let's just say that there was a vote. There was a poll that you could actually take, and it said 52% of people want to take away your 52% of the, and it was a legitimate poll that said 52% think it causes them harm just knowing there's guns in public. Would you think that's enough to take away your right to self-defense?
No. And the reason I say no is I'm going to back this up with some paraphrasing of how the United States works legally, the legal system.
Okay.
To take away the Second Amendment right, I believe you would have to get rid of that entire amendment. So that's kind of amending the Constitution.
Okay.
And I don't believe that a 52% vote is enough to amend the Constitution. Now, somebody can look that up and call me on it if I'm wrong, but I think it takes more than that. It's very hard to even get an amendment into the Constitution. We've never even taken an amendment out that I know of. Do you?
We had one that was revoked, which is the prohibition. The 18th Amendment was revoked.
Okay. Okay. So
But
there we
you're
go.
right;
So we did
it's
take.
still in there, but it just was superseded
There we go.
by the one that revoked it. I think the 20th
Okay.
Amendment.
So what does that take? Do you know? What does it take to
Yeah, it
revoke an amendment?
takes
Is it
2/3
66?
of the Congress
That's what I thought.
to propose, and then
Right.
3/4 of the state legislatures have to ratify.
There you go.
That's a lot.
So that's a lot more than 52%.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I kind of took a lot of your time today.
Oh, no
we
problem.
we thoroughly enjoyed it.
Good.
And we're so grateful. We know your time is valuable as an attorney. Um, and you're such an interesting guy. It's so great to
Thanks.
talk to a Second Amendment advocate who's thought carefully about this, who went to law school as an older gentleman and has the weight of experience behind you going into law school, and now you're fighting for your rights as well as other people. It's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to say something about that. Now, you got me thinking about something I haven't thought about in a long time, but we talked about race a little bit. We've talked about law school, stuff like that. The evening program I took at Loyola. I got to tell you.
I taught at Loyola for over a decade at the
Oh, did you?
undergraduate college. Yeah.
Oh, at LMU.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I got to the evening program at Loyola Law, I was the only Black male in the entire program.
Out of how many people?
There were, I want to say between 34 and 40 when we first started, maybe a few more when we first started, but it whittled away kind of quickly. But I think we ended up with about 32 or something at the end. So it had to be closer to 40, I think, when we first started. But I looked around and it was about half female, half male. And all races, ethnicities, whatever you want to call, were represented, at least by, like in my case, one African-American male. And I looked around and I thought, I can't fail. Because if I fail, there'll be zero. And for me, it wasn't that I needed to be a lawyer for Black people, but I need to at least represent some part of society. There are Black men in society. If you look at the demographic of lawyers, there are very few Black male lawyers. And like, if I failed out, there wouldn't be me. And I come at things with a slightly different perspective than the next guy, whether he be Black, white, orange, purple, whatever. Right. I've got a different perspective than everybody else on the planet. So I feel like I'm happy to represent my thoughts to the public. I was so happy that you asked me to do this because I do believe in the Second Amendment. And I hope that people are able to watch or listen to this and maybe take away something that they didn't know already, whether they're pro or against the Second Amendment. Maybe something that we talked about will help them. I mean, there's still a couple of things there's a couple of things I want to say real quickly.
Sure.
One is, if you happen to be like me, you're pro Second Amendment, you concealed carry with a license, or in a state where you don't need a license, or you open carry because you live in a state that's open carry. There's so much that goes into the thought process that you need to be thinking about. If you use your weapon in self-defense, you are still going to jail. It's not like they're going to show up and go, oh, Bob, Peter, what? Oh, yeah, self-defense, no problem. Have a good night. Here's your weapon. They're going to confiscate that weapon for evidence. They're going to lock you up until they figure out something. You probably make bail, whatever. But in the end, as long as it was justified self-defense, you'll be fine. But let's take me, for instance. Yeah, I own a law firm. I don't want to be sitting in jail for a week, a day, even.
No kidding.
You know what I mean?
No kidding.
Yeah. I don't want, if I got court tomorrow and I get arrested today, guess what? I'm not showing up at court tomorrow.
Right.
My one free call, I think it's still one free call in jail, isn't going to be to my client to say, hey, sorry, get another lawyer for tomorrow morning.
Jeez.
For your 8:30 court.
Yeah.
One of the trainings I went through recently was scenario. I was listening to this guy talk on a video for the USCCA, and he talked about this situation that happened. Concealed carry, legally armed American citizen, walks into, and I think it was a 7-Eleven or some kind of convenience store, whatever, sees a guy standing there with a shotgun pointed at the guy behind the counter. The guy behind the counter's got his hands up like this. The legally armed citizen draws his weapon, shoots the guy with the shotgun. Turns out the guy with the shotgun was the store owner. The guy behind the counter is the bad guy who just killed the clerk behind the counter. So something I just want to put out there is, if you decide in a split second to use your firearm in defense of another, you better be 100% damn well sure you know exactly what the situation is.
Yeah.
You know,
And does
because you
that
can
come
get-
with training?
It did, because that was something I didn't even think about before that.
Okay.
You know, I
Becoming
remember when
aware of the different options and the different
situational awareness.
situations.
Yeah. When I got my CCW, the chief of police, but before he signed off on it, he told me, he says, I think he said he's only had to unholster his weapon, he said twice in either 18 or 28 years. Twice, I think he said he had to unholster his weapon when he was off duty. And he was reluctant to be pulling off his weapon in defense of others, because you really don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, he, in his situation, I think he said
The
that
guy might have
his
been on
house
the
was
other
broken.
side of the counter because that's where the cash register was and he wanted the cash.
Yeah, but you don't know.
That's
You
right.
don't know when you just walk
Not
in.
based
you
on
just-
2 seconds, you don't know.
Yeah,
Unless you know the people that own the place.
sure.
Unless
Sure.
you know who they are. Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And it made me really
you're
think,
right.
because I always thought, I mean, even on my just cause statement, I put self-defense in defense of others, but that might really get narrowed down to self-defense, not so much defense of others.
Makes
And
sense.
I took one of my neighbors out for her first time at the range just the other day, and she was saying something about, well, we have a duty. You know, we see a woman getting raped or something, we have a duty to help her. I'm like, actually, we don't. Not according to the law.
No,
We're not
there's no
police
duty.
officers. We don't have a duty to rescue anybody.
No.
You know, and that was a shocker in law school, that you could see somebody in a pool drowning. You don't have a duty to reach in and grab them.
No.
You might feel morally like you do, but legally you don't have a duty to
Right.
unless it's your kid. You got to pull them out of the pool. You know,
Hmm.
you own the pool, you're a lifeguard or something, you know, now you have a duty. You know,
Right.
an innkeeper has a duty if they own the hotel and they see you drowning in their pool. But
Right.
yeah, the law is a tricky thing. People really need to make themselves aware. What I could say is get training using a firearm, getting training about when you can and cannot use a firearm legally, get training about what constitutes self-defense.
What about what
You know,
type of firearm? Do you revolver versus semi-auto?
I use
How do you
both.
work through that?
Well, I realized that a revolver probably has less likelihood of a malfunction. Not that they can't malfunction, but probably less likelihood. I carry my everyday carry in California is a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield 40. It's small enough that I feel like I can conceal it everywhere. I mean, I got it right here.
Yeah, that's
know?
a snappy gun.
Yeah, I don't know if you see it. It's kind of my background on Zoom kind of makes things disappear.
If you
But
hold
this
it closer
is the
to your
holster.
hold it closer to your face. There you go.
There we go.
There
There we
we go.
go.
Yeah.
So that's
Pretty
this
small.
is that yeah, this is
Pretty
that
snappy.
where I was talking about
the 40 caliber is pretty snappy.
you know, how do I make it
Yeah,
shut?
yeah,
There
I
we
see
go.
it. Yeah,
So I got to push that to get it
I
out,
gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
you know. So
Put your hand over it just to see if it covers the whole thing. Yeah, see, that's how small it is. I mean,
Yeah.
you might have big hands, but
anyway, but you got a bunch of holsters here. So, and I didn't set these up just because I was getting on Zoom with you.
right.
You're always
right.
within reach. I told you I'm armed all the time. So yeah, I just
Yeah,
lean
yeah.
over. There's the firearm. But
You're a
you
true
know, this
believer.
one is neoprene, and I use it inner waistband. I can use it just in shorts. You know, when I'm just
Wow.
shorts and a t-shirt. It's really thin. Got a little clip on the back. I like that one a lot. Depends on what I'm wearing. You know, what I'm
Yeah.
wearing will determine what holster I'm going to use. I've got another
Right.
one right here. Now this one, just the firearm snaps into it,
Yep. I've seen those.
but it doesn't. I mean, anybody could walk up and grab my firearm out of it,
Right. The
which is
Kydex.
why I
Yeah.
use it for concealed. You know,
I
it
think that's inside
contours
the
to my
waistband.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the outer waistband one. It's
Oh,
got
outer.
the,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, the weight, the belt goes through there, but it does clip into it with a definite detent,
Yep, gotcha.
you know?
Yep,
So you have to actually tug it. So I
right.
use that. I used to use it more when I was in Washington State, when I was riding my motorcycle, because I didn't want it to fall out.
Everybody that's listening on audio and can't see it, you're missing out, but okay. Go to
So
the
those are-
YouTube version.
Yeah. There's my inner waistband, my outer waistband, and my open carry holsters. So yeah, I like this M&P Shield a lot. But as far as revolver, I have
Can
a couple.
Can I put you on
revolvers.
hold really quick? Hold
Sure,
on one second.
sure.
All right, we're back.
So I
Sorry.
just want to say with my revolver, it's a Colt Python 6-shooter with a 6-inch barrel.
Wow,
And I love it. I mean, that's a awesome freaking weapon. It really is.
It's a newer one?
freaking weapon. Yep, brand new. I just bought it a
That's
couple
awesome.
months ago.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and you know, that's quite a weapon right there. But anyway, I know you got to go.
You
I
conceal
do
carry
think-
your Colt Python?
I cannot conceal carry. It's so damn big.
Yeah.
You know, it's way too big to conceal. But I was gonna use it on Oatman, Arizona, at the bike rally, the motorcycle rally, a couple weeks 2
Wow.
weeks ago, because I walk around open carry. But I ended up just open carrying my Smith and Wesson.
All the biker people are going to be so upset that I didn't ask you what kind of Harley you have.
I've got a bunch of them. I got a Street Glide Special 2019. I just passed 80,000 miles on, so I ride a lot. Harley told me they only know one person who rides more than me. I've got a Harley Breakout, the 2018. Both of them have 117 stage 4, you know, Screaming Eagle. I know some people don't like Screaming Eagle, but whatever. I've got a Thunder Mountain, which was the only company authorized by Harley to ever make choppers. So it's a custom chopper, 2008. I just
That's
sold
cool.
my 72. It was a one of a kind. It was a really, really special
Wow.
bike, but a woman saw it and had to have it, so I let her buy it. And I got a Honda Rebel I'm using to teach on, and then that's it. I've sold all my others. I had sport bikes too. I had Turbo Hayabusa out in Germany on the Autobahn. I shipped it
Wow.
over to me myself. Yeah,
Wow.
225 mile an hour top speed. That was incredible. No
Wow.
speed limit over there. Yeah, we can
Wow.
talk about that on another one.
You can't
Nothing
conceal
like having a
carry
Turbo
over there, though.
Hayabusa. Fastest bike in the world, no speed limit.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on. I had a blast.
No problem. Anytime you want to do it again, we can elaborate on more stuff. You just let me know.
Absolutely.
Next
We
time
want to
I'll
have
make
you
sure-
come on regularly.
Good. I'll have it on my calendar. Like today, like I said, I'm just so
Cool.
busy. I've just spaced it. But I'm
Thank
glad we did it.
you, Mr. MavEryck Stevenson,
That's me.
Esquire.
Hey, can I plug my law firm?
Please do.
It's the law offices of MavEryck Langford Stevenson Esquire. MavEryck's got a Y in it, MavEryck. Law firm is the website www.mavlaw911.com. They can get me at mavlawforhire@gmail.com or 424-281-7233. They need a lawyer.
Awesome.
I'm their man.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.